Chapter 589. Speaking of which, there was indeed another person in West Hill who could fork out so much money in one go. Moreover, that person would definitely think of a way to bid for Mu Hongyu. Chu Luiyue. However, he did not know if the person who was still bidding was her or not. Why did you think of something? Shui Luer asked curiously. Jian Fengqi's fingers unconsciously rubbed the cold bone fan slowly. There's no way to know who's in the private room on the 3rd floor, right? Shui Luer immediately understood. You want to find out who's in the private room? Jian Fengqi nodded then shook his head. No, I just want to confirm if it's her. If it was really Chu Luiyue, then he could give up on the competition. If it wasn't her, then he had to win this auction no matter what. Do you have a way? He looked at Shui Luer. Do you really think I'm omnipotent? Yuxiang Hall is heavily guarded. To find out who's in the private room on the 3rd floor is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Shui Luer glared at him. Jian Fengqi pondered for a moment. Then his eyes suddenly lit up. I got it. 6,600,000. He spoke again. Chu Luiyue rubbed her forehead. The other party had indeed increased the price again. If this continued, who knows? I'm determined to win this last auction today. If anyone continues to bid, I'll add 1/10 of their bid. The other party quickly added. Chu Luiyue was suddenly stunned. An array of light flashed across her mind. This is Jian Fengqi. Other than him, there wouldn't be a second person who would say that. Chu Luiyue was surprised and delighted. Jian Fengqi's words were obviously testing her. She paused for a moment then said, if that's the case, I'll withdraw. It's really her. Jian Fengqi suddenly heaved a sigh of relief and felt a chill run down his spine. Only then did he realize that his back was covered in cold sweat. Probably because he was nervous, he pursed his lips and was a little surprised. He had never felt this way before. He didn't realize it earlier, but now that he thought about it, his reaction seemed to be a little overboard. Can you rest assured now? Shui Luer couldn't help but tease him. You have to be honest when you return. What exactly is the relationship between you and that woman? Jian Fengqi had always walked through hundreds of flowers, but not a single leaf stuck to him. This was probably the first time he was this nervous over a woman. Jian Fengqi's lips curled up. What other relationship could there be? Of course we're friends. However, Shui Luer didn't believe him. I'm also your friend, but why haven't I seen you this nervous before? Jian Fengqi glanced at her coldly. Shui Luer raised her brows. It doesn't matter if you don't want to tell me. I'll ask her myself later. Void Yuan body. You have good eyesight. Jian Fengqi was speechless. He didn't know about this before. However, when he saw that Shui Luer seemed to have made up her mind, he couldn't be bothered to explain. The most important thing now was to take Mu Hongyu away as soon as possible. At this moment, Song Zheng had already shouted twice, but no one answered. He looked around. 6,600,000 white crystal coins going thrice. Deal. After Mu Hongyu's auction ended, a strange sound suddenly came from Chu Luiyue's private room. She turned around and saw a black hole suddenly appearing on the ground. A squarish white jade stone slowly rose from the ground. This was the tool that Yuxiang Hall used to collect money. Chu Luiyue placed her universe ring on it. With a thought, 10,000 white crystal coins fell into the square white jade stone. Then that thing fell down. After a while, a long sword was sent up. It was the Cloud Sky Copper Sword. Chu Luiyue's spirit was lifted, and she gently picked up the sword. This sword was bronze in color, and only the tip of the sword seemed to be suffused with a faint peacock blue. Previously, she couldn't see it clearly from a distance. Now that she held it in her hand, she could clearly feel the weight of this sword. Chu Luiyue already had a feeling in her heart. The 10,000 white crystal coins were worth it. She played with it for a while more, then put it away. The black iron cage in the middle of the auction hall had already disappeared. It should have been sent to the person who bought Mu Hongyu. Thinking of Mu Hongyu's miserable and pitiful appearance just now, Chu Luiyue felt as if her heart had been stabbed by something. She quickly left the private room. Although there were many private rooms on the 3rd floor, they were all independent of each other. Every private room had a direct connection to the 2 floors below. Therefore, no matter if it was going up or down, entering or exiting, It could guarantee maximum privacy. Chu Luiyue directly chose to leave Yuxiang Hall. When she walked to the door, many people had already left. Chu Luiyue mixed in with the crowd, occasionally attracting some gazes. However, those people only glanced at her a few times before retracting their gazes. Chu Luiyue heard them clearly. They were still discussing what happened at the auction hall just now, and the rumored faint yuan body. In less than a day, the entire imperial city would know about this. Chu Luiyue also walked out of the door and waited quietly at a spot not far away. After a long time, when most of the people had left, Jian Fengqi's figure finally appeared in Chu Luiyue's sight. Shui Lu'er was beside him, and Mu Hongyu. Her face was pale, and she was limping beside Jian Fengqi. However, the expression on her face was very excited, and she was chatting enthusiastically with Shui Lu'er beside her. Is this really the Tianling dynasty? Then where's Lu Yu? Isn't she here too? Chu Luiyue immediately walked forward. Hongyu. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 590. Mu Hongyu immediately looked up when she heard the voice. Lu Yu. A surprised smile bloomed on her face as she quickly ran toward Chu Luiyue. She stumbled and almost fell to the ground. Chu Luiyue quickly went forward and supported her. Hongyu, you're injured now, be careful. Lu Yu, it's really you. Mu Hongyu did not care about her injury. She looked at Chu Luiyue from head to toe with joy, then hugged her tightly. That's great. As she hugged her, tears fell from her eyes again. I thought I'd never see you guys again. She thought she was dead for sure. She did not expect that in the blink of an eye, not only did she escape from that cage, but she also saw her closest friend. Chu Luiyue patted her back gently. It's okay, I'm here. She comforted Mu Hongyu as she gave Jian Fengqi a grateful smile. Young Master Jian, thank you so much this time. Jian Fengqi's thin lips curved slightly. You're welcome. Just give me the money later. Shui Lu'er glanced at him. Uft. He was so anxious to save her just now. But in the blink of an eye, he put on airs. Chu Luiyue smiled. Sure. Jian Fengqi was stunned. He did not expect Chu Luiyue to be so straightforward. Shui Lu'er lowered her voice and reminded him. Have you thought it through? If she gives you the money, little Hongyu will have nothing to do with you anymore. Just now when they went to pick up Mu Hongyu, Shui Lu'er had already found out about Mu Hongyu's situation in a short period of time. Jian Fengqi raised his eyebrows slightly. That doesn't sound wrong, but why does it sound so weird? Actually, if I think about it carefully, it's not a loss to exchange more than 6 million white crystals for Mu Hongyu's faint yuan body. Mu Hongyu's emotions came and went quickly. After crying for a while and venting all the grievances and longing, she felt better. Sensing that she had calmed down, Chu Luiyue then gently said, Don't worry. Hongyu, let's go home first, okay? She really needed to recover from her injuries as soon as possible. Mu Hongyu finally let go of her, but she still held on to her hand tightly. She quickly wiped away the tears on her face and nodded vigorously. Okay. After they left Jiang Yuji's group. Seeing their backs, Jiang Yuji frowned in confusion. Isn't that Jian? The one beside him seemed to be Shui Lu'er from Spring Breeze House. Just now, when she was following behind them, she just happened to see the two of them walking out with the faint yuan body woman. Is Jian Fengqi the one who bid for that girl? At first, she was a little shocked. But on second thought, Jian Fengqi did have the wealth and courage to do so. He had always been unrestrained and did things based on what he liked. There are so many rich and powerful people in Xiling City, and most of them are restricted by their family's rules. Only Jian Fengqi lives his life freely and ostentatiously. Besides, who didn't know that he had won a huge sum of money from betting on Chu Luiyue winning first place a few days ago? But the girl he met after he came out, as she was quite far away and Jian Fengqi and Shui Lu'er blocked her view, Jiang Yuji didn't see that person's face clearly. However, it was clearly a girl. Not only is that girl familiar with Jian Fengqi, but she also seems to know the girl who was auctioned. If not, the two of them wouldn't be so intimate. Also, I feel that the back view is a little familiar, as if I've seen it somewhere before. Yuji, what are you looking at? Xiahou Tingan walked out and followed her gaze. There was no one there, so he couldn't help but ask curiously. Jiang Yuji fell into deep thought. The 6 million just now was Jian Fengqi. Xiahou Tingan was shocked. It's actually him? No wonder he's so generous. A tinge of jealousy and injustice instantly arose in Xiahou Tingan's heart. Our statuses are clearly similar, but it's very difficult for me to buy a sword with 10,000 white crystals. On the other hand, Jian Fengqi casually threw out millions. The difference between them was like the difference between heaven and earth. Xiahou Tingan forced a smile and said, "You don't know this either. He has always been like this. Just because he's Dragon Teeth Mountain's young master, he can squander as much as he wants." Jiang Yuji lightly snorted. "That's because he can earn it. If not, do you think Jian Shai will really let him go like this?" Xiahou Tingan was stumped, and his face looked awful. What does Jiang Yuji mean? She doesn't like him? Jiang Yuji didn't notice the change in his expression and unconsciously muttered, "But that girl." "Which girl?" asked Xiahou Tingan. Jiang Yuji briefly described the scene she just saw to him. Xiahou Tingan kept quiet for a while, and suddenly thought of something. "Oh right, I just went to find out who else came today. Guess who else came today?" "Who?" "A girl with the surname Chu." Xiahou Tingan pulled Jiang Yuji to the side, and lowered his voice after confirming that there was no one around. Yuxiang Hall's people are very tight-lipped. No matter how you ask, they definitely won't reveal the identities of the VIPs in the rooms. But you can ask the page boys at the door. This was the method he previously mentioned to Jiang Yuji. Anyone who comes here has to enter from the main door, and the page boys remember it clearly. We've already seen the people on the first and second floors. The remaining people that we haven't seen are definitely in the rooms. I just went to ask, and there's indeed a new guest today. If I didn't guess wrongly, it should be Chu Luiyue. Xiahou Tingan couldn't hide his agitation. Actually, it wasn't easy to ask this, and he still spent a lot of effort. But now, it seems like it's worth it. Jiang Yuji first found it strange before she was shocked. Putting all these pieces together, we can basically guess it pretty much. This means that the girl I saw just now is Chu Luiyue? She does have a close relationship with Jian Fengqi. Besides, she also came from outside Heaven's canopy. Perhaps they originally knew each other? Not only that, but I suspect that she's also the person who snatched the Cloud Sky Copper Sword. Xiahou Tingan said in a low voice. She did something similar the last time. Who knows if she'll do it a second time? I already said that the sword isn't worth 10,000 white crystals. Why would someone fork out so much money? She's clearly targeting us. No matter if it's towards me or Jiang Yuji, she's too arrogant. Jiang Yuji's expression changed, and she clenched her teeth. You're right. It must be her. Most people in Xiling City will give in to her on account of my brother, but only that Chu Luiyue. I want to find her. Jiang Yuji was filled with anger as she turned around to chase after her. Xiahou Tingan hurriedly pulled her back. Yuji, we can't go now. Did you forget what I told you previously? Jiang Yuji paused in her footsteps. Besides, she did spend money today and properly bid for that sword. It's really unreasonable for us to go over just like that. Jiang Yuji's chest violently heaved up and down, and she said hatefully after a while. I definitely won't let her off so easily next time. I'll go and find my brother now. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 591. Chu Luiyue brought Mu Hongyu back to the residence. Jian Fengqi and Xue Lu are also followed along. Chu Luiyue first let Mu Hongyu take a bath, then carefully treated her wounds, applied medicine and bandaged them. She also took out a new set of clothes for her to change into. She also helped the golden mane bear cub treat its wounds. Fortunately, its skin was thick, and its recovery ability was very strong. Mu Hongyu confirmed with Chu Luiyue that it was fine several times before her heart finally relaxed. After cleaning up, the master and servant pair finally didn't look as pitiful as before. Chu Luiyue checked her pulse and confirmed that most of her wounds were superficial and that there were no internal problems. Only then did he finally relax. Moreover, although Mu Hongyu seemed to have lost a lot of weight, there seemed to be an extremely strong and vigorous energy in her body. This was probably the reason why she broke through to the peak of the 5th step in such a short period of time. Chu Luyue originally wanted to ask her about her recent situation, but when he remembered that Jian Fengqi and Shui Luo were still waiting outside, he suppressed the question in his heart. After cleaning up, the two finally returned to the front hall. Jian Fengqi's gaze swept across Mu Hongyu's body and raised his eyebrows slightly. Shui Luo's eyes flashed with amazement. So Mu Hongyu was born so beautiful. After washing away the bloodstains on her body and grooming herself, her appearance had completely changed. Bright, flamboyant, lively, and a pair of almond-shaped eyes very bright. This was a girl who was as passionate and pure as fire. Mu Hongyu walked in and looked around curiously. Luyu, your residence is so clean and beautiful. Although it wasn't big, it was clean and elegant, giving people a very comfortable feeling. Chu Luyue teased. Someone help me clean up this place. I'll introduce you later. Have a seat first. Mu Hongyu casually found a seat and sat down. Finally, she could not hold back her curiosity and asked, Luyu, didn't you just come here not long ago? How come you already have your own place? This was the capital of the Tianling dynasty, the West Hill. Ordinary people might not have the opportunity to come here in their lifetime. But Luyu had managed to gain a foothold here in such a short time. Could it be that Vice Admiral Mu helped you find a courtyard? Chu Luyue's lips curved up slightly. Vice Admiral Mu has helped me a lot. But this house has nothing to do with Vice Admiral Mu. He had asked me to stay in his Mu residence, but I felt that it was too much of a bother. So I came out to look for another place to stay. I am now a disciple of the Chongshu Pavilion. My master used to live in this house, but now he has given it to me. Mu Hongyu sighed. Then your master must be a very good person. Chu Luyue's smile deepened as she nodded. No matter if it was in the past or now, Yuchi Song had treated her well. Actually, it was thanks to young Master Jian that I was able to settle down in West Hill. As Chu Luyue spoke, she glanced at Jian Fengqi with a faint smile. If it wasn't for him, I'm afraid that I wouldn't even have the qualifications to walk into Yuxiang Hall today. Food, drink, housing, and transportation, which doesn't cost money. Jian Fengqi's face instantly darkened. She actually dared to mention it. Mu Hongyu did not understand, and only looked at Jian Fengqi with some surprise. She did not expect Jian Fengqi to be so loyal. Sensing Mu Hongyu's sincerity, Jian Fengqi forcibly swallowed his words. Anyway, the money had already been robbed by Chu Luyue. It was useless to say anything now. He might as well admit it and gain a good reputation. Thus, he opened the bone fan in his hand with a swish and smiled in a carefree and unrestrained manner. It's nothing, Chu Luyue agreed. Yes, young Master Jian has always been generous to his friends. Otherwise, he would not have spent so much money to redeem you today. Hongyu, you really have to give him a good rest this time. Mu Hongyu nodded seriously. Suddenly, she thought of something and asked curiously. Oh right, that white crystal coin. How much is it? She had never even left country Yaochun before, so she naturally did not know about it. Chu Luyue smiled. One white crystal coin is worth 10,000 taels of gold. Mu Hongyu exclaimed and jumped up from her chair. What? Then young Master Jian just spent 6,600,000. How much money is that? She widened her almond-shaped eyes and looked at Jian Fengqi. Her face, which had just regained some color, turned pale again. Previously, she was still thinking that she could not let them help her for free. She would definitely return the money to them when she had the money. But this astronomical figure, even if I were to be sold, I would not be worth so much money. Mu Hongyu stammered. Chu Luyue waved at her and asked her to sit down. Silly child, this is the price you sold for just now. Mu Hongyu's expression froze. It seems like this is really the case. Then what should I do? Chu Luyue patted her hand comfortingly. Hongyu, young Master Jian helped you out of friendship. Why would he want you to return the money? Then what kind of heartless and unjust person would he be? Young Master Jian, don't you think so? Chu Luyue asked with a smile. Jian Fengqi's eyebrows twitched violently. He knew that Chu Luyue would not let him off so easily. Although he did not intend to let Mu Hongyu return the money, she wanted to make him lose his 6,600,000. Yet he could not say anything. Of course, I can still afford this amount of money. Jian Fengqi gritted his teeth and said. Mu Hongyu was slightly relieved when she heard this, but she still felt very apologetic. But this amount of money is a lot to me. This time, I owe you guys too much. Hongyu, you are too polite. We are all friends and should help each other. Even if young Master Jian was not here today, I would still bring you out. Mu Hongyu's eyes were filled with tears. Lu Yu, you are so nice. Jian Fengqi was confused. Wasn't I the one who paid the money? Why is she thanking Chu Luyue now? Shui Luo watched from the side with great interest. TSK. Chu Luyue is really powerful. He can actually subdue Jian Fengqi, this monster. The young master of Dragon Teeth Mountain, who usually does whatever he wants in Xiling City, has finally met his natural enemy. She had not seen Jian Fengqi so aggrieved in a long time. Jian Fengqi seemed to have sensed her gaze and coldly glanced at her. Shui Lu, did not say a word and smiled gently. Why are you looking at me? If you have the ability, go and fight with Chu Luyue. Jian Fengqi retracted his gaze in resignation. He knew that none of them could be relied on. He did not know why, but whenever he faced Chu Luyue, he always seemed to be at a disadvantage. This feeling of not being able to use his fists and legs was really similar. Hongyu, we have been talking about us. Let's talk about you now. Chu Luyue looked at Mu Hongyu. Why did you suddenly come to Xiling? Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 592. Mu Hongyu sighed. We have to start from half a month ago. It turned out that after Chu Luyue left the Imperial City, Mu Hongyu also applied for leave from the academy and planned to go home with her mother. Ever since she went to the Imperial City to study, she had never returned. This time, her mother's body had recovered, so she wanted to reunite with her family. However, she didn't expect them to be ambushed on the way. It turned out that Elder Wu Shan betrayed them and lured people to assassinate them. In a moment of desperation, Mu Hongyu acted as bait and lured those people away so that Elder Ji Chang could escape with her mother. Besides, as her mother kept objecting, Mu Hongyu personally knocked her out with a knife. Mu Hongyu originally thought that she was dead for sure, but she fell from the cliff when she was on the brink of death and fell into the rushing river below. She was severely injured back then, and she floated in the river for 3 days and 3 nights. If it weren't for the golden mane bear cub, she might have died in the river. After enduring those 3 days and a days, she finally saw a boat downstream. There were more than 20 people on the boat, and almost all of them were strong. She vaguely felt that something was amiss back then, but she was on the brink of death back then. She finally saw a chance to live, so how could she care so much? Hence, she begged with all her might, and used all her money in exchange for a chance to board the boat. She thought that as long as she could go ashore, she would definitely have a way to go back. However, she didn't expect that when the boat stopped again, it actually reached the border of Heaven's Canopy. When Emperor Jiawen previously summoned Heaven's Canopy, Mu Hongyu had seen it from afar. Hence, when she saw the gigantic Heaven's Canopy in the sky, she finally realized that there was something wrong with the boat she was on. When the group of people was about to come down from the boat, they were accidentally discovered and chased after. In the midst of the chaotic battle, Mu Hongyu ran for her life, but she couldn't take it anymore and fainted. When she woke up again, she realized that she was alone in Heaven's Canopy. She and the golden mane bear cub walked forward at a loss. When they were hungry, they ate grass. When they were tired, they just lay on the ground to rest. They had suffered all the hardships that they hadn't suffered in the past 10 years. After walking for 2 days, she met another group of people. And those were the people of Yuxiang Hall. They were originally passing by unintentionally, and saw Mu Hongyu walking alone at the border of Heaven's Canopy, so they captured her. In fact, they didn't take Mu Hongyu seriously at first. It wasn't until they found out that Mu Hongyu could teleport from one place to another that they realized how unusual Mu Hongyu was. In the end, they brought her back to the West Hill. Mu Hongyu tried to escape 2 or 3 times, but she was quickly caught by them. In order to make her behave, they drugged her. When she woke up again, she was already in the iron cage. After Mu Hongyu finished speaking, the room fell into a long silence. Chu Luiyue took a deep breath and rubbed his glabella. The people on the ship should be stowaways. There was such a special group of people outside Heaven's canopy. They didn't have the strength of a stage 7 warrior, and didn't know anyone in Heaven's canopy, so they couldn't enter Heaven's canopy through the proper channels. However, they were full of fantasies and yearning for Heaven's canopy, so they racked their brains and used all kinds of methods to sneak into Heaven's canopy. Heaven's canopy was very wide. Even though many empires had sent countless soldiers to guard the borders, they couldn't guarantee that every place could completely guard against these stowaways. Mu Hongyu should have just happened to be in that group. Chu Luiyue went through all the experiences that she had just said in his mind. Finally, he couldn't help but sigh. It's a miracle that you're able to survive until here. The journey was full of difficulties and dangers. The slightest carelessness in any part of the journey could lead to complete death. However, Mu Hongyu was lucky enough to avoid all of them, and she just happened to meet them. It was almost as if the heavens were helping her. Jian Fengqi and Shui Lu also had complicated expressions. When they saw Mu Hongyu's injuries, they knew that she wasn't doing well during this period. However, what she said was still far beyond their expectations. Jian Fengqi slowly heaved a sigh of relief and muttered softly. In that case, the 6 million that I spent wasn't a loss. Shui Lu glared at him. Don't you know how to talk? Isn't he always gentle, considerate, and understanding when facing other girls? Why is it that when it comes to Mu Hongyu, he only knows how to say these things? Jian Fengqi also seemed to feel that something was wrong and coughed. Fortunately, Mu Hongyu didn't seem to mind. Chu Luiyue thought for a while and said, Then your faint yuan body. What's up with that? Mu Hongyu shrugged with an innocent face. I don't know either. It seems like it suddenly became like this. After those people from Yuxiang Hall captured me, I accidentally heard them say that they were going to sell me. I was scared and wanted to escape. In the end, I didn't know how, but I ended up in another place. They found me soon after, so I tried again when they weren't paying attention. I succeeded again. Only then did I know that there was something wrong with my body. Chu Luiyue's lips curled up slightly. What was wrong with her body? This was obviously a great opportunity. The faint yuan body hadn't appeared in the world for thousands of years. It was no wonder that Yuxiang Hall wanted to find her, and even sent her to the Western Tomb. Mu Hongyu pondered for a while and said, Oh right. I floated in the river for 3 days. After I boarded the boat, my strength seemed to have slowly increased. When those people from Yuxiang Hall found me, my strength finally stopped at the peak of the 5th step. It's probably related to the river, but those people on the boat weren't like me. Her physique came out of nowhere, so much so that she didn't even know how she managed to break through. Chu Luiyue laughed. Now when did Mu Hongyu become the faint yuan body? There was no way to find out. But this wasn't important. What was important was that she had the faint yuan body. This was something that countless people couldn't get even if they begged for it. Mu Hongyu actually did it out of nowhere. If word got out, who knew how many people would die of envy? Hongyu, since those things are already in the past, there's no need to think about it anymore. Now that you've come to the Western Tomb, you should stay here. Now that you have the faint yuan body, your talent is amazing, and your future potential is limitless. Returning to Yaochun will only delay you. Only by staying here will you have the chance to become a top powerhouse. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 593. Mu Hongyu's eyes lit up. There was no cultivator in the world who didn't want to become stronger. Mu Hongyu was no exception. In the past, she didn't know what the faint yuan body was. It was only when she was trapped in the iron cage and listened to Song Zheng and the people below for a long time that she gradually understood that she now had a rare physique. After hearing Chu Luiyue's words, she was also tempted. Can I really stay here? Tianling Dynasty, Xiling, the imperial capital. This was a place she didn't even dare to think about in the past. Chu Luiyue said affirmatively. Of course you can. Although you were a stowaway previously, now that young Master Jian has auctioned you off, you are nominally his person. Naturally, you can stay here legitimately. Jian Fengqi turned his wrist and gently pressed the bone fan against his brow bone. His eyes were slightly lowered, and his expression couldn't be seen. His person. These words sounded really. Mu Hongyu nodded thoughtfully. In that case, do I have to stay by his side in the future? Didn't those people say that I was a slave? Mu Hongyu said the last two words very hesitantly. She didn't know how she had become a slave for no reason. In the past she was a princess in country Yaochun. Who knew that in the blink of an eye, she would become? It would be hard for anyone to accept. Chu Luiyue explained the law of the Tianling dynasty to her. Although you didn't do it on purpose, you are indeed a stowaway. Moreover, Yuxiang Hall has publicly auctioned you off. This news will spread very quickly, and everyone will have the preconceived notion that you. With every word Chu Luiyue said, Mu Hongyu's face darkened. Jian Fengqi suddenly said, Actually, it's not that there's no way to get rid of your identity as a slave. Mu Hongyu's eyes lit up. Really? What is it? Jian Fengqi didn't immediately answer. Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat, and he looked at him suspiciously. In the Tianling dynasty, even the master of a slave had no right to revoke the slave's status. There were only two ways to get them out of this situation. The first way was to make a great contribution and be pardoned by the emperor. However, this kind of situation was very rare. The Tianling dynasty had achieved this in the past 1,000 years, and it was no more than one hand. The second was marriage. When a master and a slave established a karmic relationship, the slave's identity would naturally be revoked. This was also the way most slaves changed their identities. This method was actually not that simple, because in the Tianling dynasty, the status of a slave was very lowly. If they married a slave, they would often be ridiculed and despised. The average master would not be willing to endure this for a slave, unless the slave was extremely powerful. After all, this was a world where strength reigned supreme. However, in comparison, this method was much simpler than the first method. Mu Hongyu definitely couldn't do the first one now. Jian Fengqi's suggestion was most likely the second one. Shui Luer seemed to have realized something as well. She suddenly looked at Jian Fengqi, and a hint of surprise flashed in her eyes. What's Jian Fengqi thinking? He's Mu Hongyu's master now. Is he planning to disregard his status as the young master of Dragon Teeth Mountain and marry Mu Hongyu? Shui Luer liked Mu Hongyu very much, but she had a deeper relationship with Jian Fengqi after all. If Jian Fengqi really did this, even if his parents agreed, the entire Dragon Teeth Mountain would not. How can the young master's wife have such a background? Although Jian Fengqi's mother came from an ordinary background, she wasn't a slave. The few people in the room fell into a strange silence. Mu Hongyu looked at one person, then the other, and was confused. What's going on? Weren't we having a good chat just now? She said with some apprehension. If this will make things difficult for you, then I won't do it. I'll think of another way myself. You've already helped me a lot. I can't trouble you anymore. Chu Luiyue glanced at Jian Fengqi meaningfully. He didn't mean what he said just now, did he? Jian Fengqi felt a little guilty under her stare, so he turned his gaze away. In fact, he was also shocked when he said that. However, when he heard Mu Hongyu say that, he felt an inexplicable discomfort in his heart. Hongyu, this matter can't be solved in a short period of time. However, as long as you cultivate well and become a powerhouse, these problems will be solved easily. Chu Luiyue said seriously. Mu Hongyu looked at her determined expression, and her gaze was firm and powerful. The uneasiness in her heart gradually dissipated. Chu Luiyue always seemed to have a power that could make people feel at ease. It was as long as she was around, nothing would be a problem. Mu Hongyu's almond-shaped eyes curved as she nodded vigorously. Okay, I'll listen to you. Chu Luiyue thought for a while and asked. Now you have two choices. One is to join the Chongshu Pavilion with me. The other is to follow young Master Jian to Dragon Teeth Mountain. With your current aptitude, you can choose any of the sects in West Hill. Mu Hongyu said without hesitation. I'll go to Chongshu Pavilion with you. Jian Fengqi raised his eyebrows high and finally couldn't help but knock on the table. Excuse me, have you forgotten that there's another person here? Mu Hongyu, you're redeemed by me. Naturally, you should go to Dragon Teeth Mountain. What's going on with you following Chu Luiyue to Chongshu Pavilion? Mu Hongyu's eyes flashed with confusion and surprise. But, I've always been with Lu Yue in the past. It was the same when they were in the academy. Now that she had the chance, she naturally wanted to do the same. Following Jian Fengqi, she didn't even think about it. Chu Liyue's lips curled up as she said lazily, "Young Master Jian, didn't you ask me to give you the money? I'll give it to you. From now on, Hongyu will follow me. I'll naturally take good care of her." Jian Fengqi blurted out, "I don't agree. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network." Mu Hongyu nodded seriously, and then a trace of worry appeared on her face. "Of course it's good for me to stay here, but what about Yao Chen? My father and mother don't know where I am now, and they don't know my situation. They must be worried sick." Chu Liyue asked, "Don't you have a way to contact them?" Mu Hongyu's expression was gloomy. "I did, but I've already lost everything I had on me when I fled all the way here." Chu Liyue thought about it and agreed. "I'll help you pass the message back." Mu Hongyu was relieved. The few of them chatted for a while. Chu Liyue briefly recounted his experiences during this period of time, and then told Mu Hongyu many things about West Hill, telling her to be more careful to avoid trouble. In the end, Mu Hongyu reluctantly left with Jian Fengqi and Shui Luer. Fortunately, Jian Fengqi's medical skills were very good, so Chu Liyue was not worried about Mu Hongyu's injuries. As long as Dragon Teeth Mountain could protect her, nothing else mattered. After sending them off, Chu Liyue sat down and began to write a letter. Ordinary people could not enter and exit Heaven's canopy at will. So if one wanted to communicate, the safest and most convenient way was to hire someone to deliver the letter. However, the cost was relatively high, and ordinary people could not afford it. However, this was not a problem for Chu Liyue. After writing, she went out to deliver the letter. This letter was for Qi Han, who was still in Yaochun. Credibility was the most important thing in this kind of thing, so Chu Liyue was not worried that someone would open her letter halfway. Besides, even if it was opened, no one other than the 13U guard would be able to understand it. After doing this, Chu Liyue returned to the Chongshu Pavilion. When she met Yi Ranran at the mountain pass, before Chu Liyue could say anything, Yi Ranran asked, "Luyu, why are you only back now?" Chu Liyue saw that her expression was not right, so she asked, "What's wrong? What's wrong? What happened?" Yi Ranran walked to her side, his small round face full of worry. When Pavilion Master came back just now, his expression was a little strange. Then he went to the back of the mountain alone, and stayed there for a long time. You might not know, but Pavilion Master's son is buried there. Actually, Pavilion Master rarely goes there. I don't know what happened today. Chu Liyue frowned slightly. Yuchi-song must have seen something in the zither room today, and realized that her death back then was related to Jiang Yucheng. That was why he had such a reaction. However, she could not reveal her identity now, so it was difficult for her to persuade him. At this point, it was useless to persuade him. She could only wait for him to calm down. "Master said that you went out with Pavilion Master today. Do you know what's going on?" Yi Ranran asked again. Pavilion Master had become much more energetic the day before because of the matter with the herb garden. In the end, it had only been a short while, but he suddenly became like this. They couldn't help but worry. Chu Liyue pursed her lips. "I'm not too sure either. It's just that, after accompanying Master to Exionly Garden today, I think he became like this." Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 595. Xinli Garden. At this moment, Elder Xiai walked over. He frowned when he heard Chu Liyue's words. "Pavilion Master, didn't you say you were going to the zither room in Thousand View Garden to retrieve something?" Chu Liyue nodded slightly. "Eldest young Master Jiang went in with Master at that time. I was waiting outside, so I didn't know what happened inside. Master was fine when he came out, but not long after he left Xinli Garden, he said he wanted to be alone. That's why I didn't come back with him." Elder Xiai was puzzled. Could it be that he was hurt by what he saw? But it doesn't seem like it. The zither room used to be the crown princess' favorite place, so there were many traces of her there. Since the Pavilion Master was going to retrieve his things, He must have been mentally prepared. When the pavilion master came back today, Elder Xiai had only taken a quick glance at him and felt that something was wrong. He wanted to chase after him to ask, but the pavilion master went to the back of the mountain, so he didn't follow him. Forget it. Don't worry about that for now. Cultivate well during this period. The date of this year's Great Sect competition has been decided. It'll be held in a month, so you must prepare well, Elder Xiaoi said. Yi Ranran was surprised. It's always been held in February. Why is it so early this year? Elder Xiaoi smiled bitterly. The time was decided by the major sections. Yi Ranran understood immediately and kept quiet in embarrassment. Chu Lue thought to himself, I knew it. Every year, West Hill would hold a great sect competition to measure each sect's strength and determine their status. The date of the competition was basically the same every year. Since it was held so early this year, it was obvious that someone was unwilling to wait any longer. The Nine-Star Alliance was not the only sect that wanted to replace Chongshu Pavilion. Elder Xiai said comfortingly, It doesn't matter if it's sooner or later. Ranran, inform the disciples of the pavilion master and tell them to prepare to do their best. Yes. With that, Elder Xiai left. Chu Luyue and Yi Ranran didn't say anything else and went their separate ways. When Chu Luyue walked to the door of his room, he happened to see Chang Wanzhou coming out of his room. His aura seemed to be stronger than before. Chu Luyue asked in surprise, You used another medicinal pill? Chang Wanzhou nodded. After a while he explained, You said that we can continue to use the pill after the efficacy of the previous one is depleted. Chu Luyue walked over and took his wrist to check his pulse. He was even more shocked. The cold evil energy in Chang Wanzhou's body dissipated faster than he had expected, and a portion of his frozen origin power was released. She knew that Chang Wanzhou's strength would gradually increase as the process progressed, but she didn't expect it to be so fast. In truth, only a small part of the frozen origin power had been dissolved. However, the power contained within it was extremely great. No wonder he used medicinal pills again. At this rate, his body would be fully recovered in about 3 months. Chu Luyue looked at him strangely. Chang Wanzhou's thin lips moved, and a trace of doubt appeared on his beautiful face. What's wrong? Nothing. I'm just thinking that raising a child is really expensive. Chu Luyue teased with a smile. Chang Wanzhou pursed his lips. I'm not a child. Chu Luyue didn't argue with him. Children always liked to say that they were adults. However, it was fortunate that she had money now. Otherwise, just helping Chang Wanzhou recuperate his body would make her bankrupt. She rubbed his head, waved her hand, and went back into the room. Cultivate well. I'll give you a gift later. Chang Wanzhou stared at her back for a long time, and a question slowly emerged in his heart. Was he really a spendthrift? If she was going to give him a gift, then he should give her a gift in return. His eyes moved slightly as he thought of something, and he turned around and went back to his room. After closing the door and windows, Chu Luyue took out the cloud sky copper sword and placed it in front of her to examine it carefully. Standing close to it, she could feel the texture of the sword. Even if it was just placed there quietly, she could still feel the faint sharpness of its aura. The sword was bronze in color, and only the tip of the sword was faintly peacock blue. Xiaoling bronze core. Chu Luyue muttered softly. According to Taizu, after this thing was polished, it could become the top sword in the world. Taizu's judgment was naturally not wrong, but the key was, how was she going to polish it? Although she was a triple cultivator, she had never personally refined a weapon. After thinking for a moment, she finally asked Taizu for advice. Taizu, may I ask what should we do with this Xiaoling bronze core? Taizu's voice sounded very relaxed. Haha, that's simple. We just need to find a star stone and grind out the core of this Xiaoling bronze core. Then we'll activate Tianlei to forge it. Chu Luyue. What did you say? She understood the first half of the sentence, but did she hear the second half wrong? Activating Tianlei. That was something that only a top expert could do. Even if her current strength wasn't weak, wanting to trigger the heavenly lightning was a fool's dream. Ahem. Actually, this matter is not that difficult. You should know that ordinary flames have no effect on the core of this Qiaoling bronze core. Only the power of Tianlei can forge it. The corner of Chu Liyue's eyes twitched. I don't know. She had never even seen Qiaoling bronze before. How could she know this? Taizu seemed to have finally realized something and changed the topic. Oh, I see. Actually, it doesn't matter if you don't know. Chu Liyue was expressionless. So you have other ways? No. Actually, I can help you activate Tianlei. Chu Liyue's eyes lit up. Really? Taizu paused and suddenly sounded guilty. As long as you can withstand the power of Tianlei. Chu Liyue suddenly had an ominous premonition. What do you mean? Well, although I can help you activate Tianlei, the core of the Qiaoling bronze core has a natural defense against the power of Tianlei. If you want to forge it into a good sword, you have to let Tianlei's power completely pass through it. The best way is to use the forger's body as a bridge to receive the power of Tianlei, and then transfer it to the core. Chu Liyue put down the cloud sky copper sword with a soft sound. Taizu's voice stopped abruptly. The atmosphere was very awkward. Chu Liyue did not move her eyebrows. Are you trying to forge a sword? Or are you trying to forge me? Ahem. Girl, you can't say that. If it were anyone else, they would not be able to do it. But you are different. Now, you are the owner of the Long Yuan sword. There are a total of 81 Tianlei's power on the Long Yuan sword. Your body also has a certain tolerance for Tianlei's power. Chu Liyue heaved a sigh of relief. Then as long as I withstand one Tianlei, I can succeed? Taizu suddenly paused. Chu Liyue's heart sank. Great Ancestor's voice came from nowhere. At least 9. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from the Love Network. Chapter 596. At least 9 of them. Chu Liyue's eyelids twitched violently. She almost suspected that she had misheard. She asked seriously, "Are you serious?" Taizu fell into a brief silence again. To trigger Tianlei to forge Yuan tools, it's all like this. But don't worry, with your strength, 9 of Tianlei won't be a problem. Chu Liyue's heart did not waver. Taizu continued, "Actually, this is also very beneficial for you. If you can successfully withstand the power of Tianlei, it will definitely make your foundation more stable, and your physical strength will greatly increase." Tianlei body tempering was naturally extraordinary. Chu Liyue thought for a long time before finally spitting out a word. Okay. Since Taizu mentioned it, he must be sure that she could do it. Since that was the case, she might as well give it a try. Taizu was clearly very happy as well. Back then, he had triggered Tianlei to forge the Dragon Abyss sword. If Chu Liyue could succeed, from a certain perspective, she could be considered to have inherited his legacy. There's a star stone that I used in the past in the Dragon Abyss sword. You can use it directly. It's best if you can find a quiet and secluded mountain peak, to avoid affecting others when you trigger Tianlei. Taizu advised seriously. Chu Liyue thought for a moment. There were actually a few small peaks around Qingyuan Mountain, but not many people went there. In addition, after the crisis at the Chongshu Pavilion, those peaks had been damaged to varying degrees. Now they were even more deserted. It was the most suitable place to choose. There's no time like the present. It's easier to trigger the power of heaven and earth at night. How about we go today? It was night. Chu Liyue went to Yanlin Peak, which was beside Qingyuan Mountain alone. Although more than a year had passed, it was not difficult to see that there had been an intense battle on the peak. Countless trees on the peak were broken and collapsed. Chu Liyue went all the way to the peak. The peak here had been shaved off, and it was smooth and neat. It was convenient for Chu Liyue. Chu Liyue looked around. After confirming that there was no problem here, she stood in the middle. Then she searched the Dragon Abyss sword for a moment. With a thought, a huge star stone appeared in front of him, accompanied by a muffled sound. This star stone was as tall as a person. It was square in shape, and its surface was dark blue in color. Only after looking at it closely could one see the specks of light on its surface. It was as bright and moving as the night sky. There were also countless sword marks. One could imagine what this star stone had been through. A faint pressure could be felt from above. These starlight rays, are actually the power of the heavenly lightning that has been left on the surface. After so many years, I thought it would be covered in dust forever. I didn't expect it to see the light of day again. The great ancestor sighed. Chu Luiwei exclaimed in her heart. Now, what you need to do is to polish the cloud sky copper sword on it until the heart appears. Taizu's voice was much deeper and more solemn. This process will consume a lot of strength and spirit. You have to be prepared. Chu Luiwei nodded slightly. Then, she leaped onto the star stone. She waved her wrist, and the cloud sky copper sword appeared in her hand. She glanced up at him. Night had fallen. Dazzling starlight gradually flashed in the black sky. Gradually, it gathered into a river of stars that flowed slowly. Chu Luiwei took a deep breath. She held the sword hilt with one hand and pressed the sword body with the other. She placed it on the star stone and started polishing it. Swish! At the same time, in the Jiang residence. In the study, Jiang Yuqing put down the brush in his hand and looked at Jiang Yuji, who was standing in front of him. You came here just to tell me this? After Jiang Yuji returned home today, she shouted that she wanted to see him. However, he was troubled by the Yuqi song today, so he asked her to wait outside. After dealing with the matter and calming down, he called her in. He originally thought that it was because of some urgent matter that made her wait so long to see him. He didn't expect. It was actually because of Chu Luiwei. Jiang Yuji's face was still filled with indignation. Brother, that Chu Luiwei is too much of a bully. You have to help me get justice. Jiang Yuqing leaned back in his chair and rubbed the space between his eyebrows. He knew his sister's personality best. Usually, he always doted on her and tried his best to go along with her. However, he didn't expect her to become even worse. Just for a sword, she was actually so unforgiving. Yuji, let's not talk about how you can't be sure that person is her. Even if it's really her, you have no reason to find trouble with her. No matter if it was the previous time or this time, the other party took the money and didn't forcefully snatch it from you. Jiang Yuji said angrily. It must be her. In the entire Xiling, other than her, who else would take the initiative to go against me? Tingan said that the sword isn't even worth 10,000 white crystals. But she insisted on fighting with me. Isn't she doing this on purpose? Jiang Yuqing didn't seem to think much of it. Jiang Yuji couldn't tell, but he could see through Xiahou Tingan's thoughts. He just wanted to use this chance to get into Jiang Yuji's good books. However, he didn't expect someone to interfere and snatch his chance to curry favor with her. It even made Jiang Yuji angry. After all, he was the Xiahou family's young master, and still relied on his family to support him. He didn't have so much spare money. In the end, he pushed all the blame to Chu Luiwei. He really didn't like Xiahou Tingan's actions, and couldn't help but despise him. Do you listen to whatever Xiahou Tingan says? Yuji, you have to remember that he's trying to climb up the social ladder by chasing you. You can't be led by the nose by him. But how could Jiang Yuji listen to this now? All she thought about was the humiliation she suffered these 2 times. That's because he's right. Chu Luiwei is clearly going against me. Brother, you have to help me teach her a lesson. Jiang Yuqing was a little impatient. She's already entered the Chongshu Pavilion and become Yuqi Song's personal disciple. She's also famous in Xiling City. If you touch her now, you'll definitely attract a lot of attention. This matter isn't as simple as you think. Jiang Yuji widened her eyes. Brother, you're the 3rd princess's son-in-law now. Will anyone dare to say anything bad about you if you want to do anything? You're just teaching Chu Luiwei a lesson. What's there to worry about? Jiang Yuqing's gaze turned cold, and he looked at her with a knife-like gaze. Who taught you all this? Jiang Yuji shuddered, and then remembered what Xiahou Tingan said previously. Now that brother is in a high position, it's time for me to be very careful. She shrunk her neck and immediately softened her tone. No one taught me. Brother, I'm your biological sister, and I'm not stupid. I know what I should say and do. I didn't mean it just now. Don't take it to heart. Jiang Yuqing's expression softened, but his voice was still very cold. Go back first. I'll treat it as if you didn't mention this. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 597. Jiang Yuji was shocked. She didn't expect that she would be rejected when she specially asked her brother to help her stand up for her. He had never been like this in the past. Brother. She quickly stepped forward and placed her hands on the table, looking at Jiang Yuqing in disbelief. I was bullied like this, and you're going to let it go just like that? She's targeting me because she doesn't care about you, brother. Brother has always been domineering when it comes to these things. Why is he suddenly acting out of character today? Jiang Yuqing looked up at her. This is a special period. Try not to cause trouble. I know you've been wronged in this matter. Go back to the warehouse and pick a few things you like. This isn't about money. Jiang Yuqing refused to let it go. By the way, didn't they say that Chu Liyue's backer is Mu Qinghe? Brother, you just have to call Mu Qinghe over and let him teach Chu Liyue a lesson, right? This way, not only could Chu Liyue suffer, but she could also clarify her relationship with Mu Qinghe and let the entire West Hill know that she didn't have any backing at all. Jiang Yuqing ignored her and lowered his head to deal with his own matters. He had spoiled her too much. If he didn't teach her a good lesson, who knew what kind of trouble she would cause in the future? In the past, it didn't matter if she caused trouble, but how could she do it now? Once he and Shang Guanwan got married and Shang Haiwan ascended to the throne, he absolutely couldn't let anything happen to him. Moreover, he had been in a very bad mood recently. His Majesty had been unconscious and showed no signs of waking up. The messed Yuan gravel on Qing Yuan Mountain had been removed, and Yu Qisong was suspicious of him. He had to think of a way to cover it up. As for Shang Guanwan, she also became more and more unpredictable. These things had caused him to be in a terrible state. How could he still have the mood to help Jiang Yuji do these things? Big brother, are you really not going to help me? Jiang Yuji took a step back, her eyes filled with anger and grievance. Is it because of her face? Jiang Yuqing paused. He slowly raised his head and said expressionlessly, "What did you say?" His tone sounded calm, but his eyes were filled with anger. Unfortunately, Jiang Yuji was completely focused on herself at this moment. So how could she care about these things? I knew it. It was because of her face. Those eyes are really similar to the Empress. Pa! Jiang Yuqing suddenly slammed the table. Jiang Yuji was startled, and her whole body trembled. Seeing that Jiang Yuqing's face was as cold as ice, she finally realized that she had said something wrong. Her eyes quickly turned red, and tears fell from her eyes as she felt wronged. Brother, you're actually throwing a tantrum at me because of a Chu Liyue? All these years, Big Brother had never been like this. Or is it for the princess? Jiang Yuqing suddenly said in a cold voice. Get out! Jiang Yuji's heart trembled, and she seemed to have thrown caution to the wind as she sneered. Everyone thinks that you have a deep relationship with the third princess. But if that's really the case, why did you secretly draw the princess's portrait? Do you think I don't know? Pa! A crisp slap sounded. Jiang Yuqing looked at her coldly. I think you've been spoiled too much. During this period of time, stay in the residence and don't go anywhere. Jiang Yuji's head tilted to the side from the slap, and she couldn't react in time. Jiang Yuqing had already left. Also, put your marriage with Xiahou Tingan on hold for now. Then he directly walked out of the study. Very quickly, someone walked in from outside and wanted to invite her out. Jiang Yuji's chest tightened, and her vision turned black as she fainted. Thousands of miles away, Yanqing rushed back, but she was still a step too late. The people from Peerless Palace had all been killed, and Rong Xiu had already brought the troops back. Yanqing felt regretful that she couldn't laugh at Umo, but after seeing Umo's swollen face, she felt more comforted. Where's His Highness? He still had Ms. Lu Yu's letter, so he naturally had to present it as soon as possible. However, Rong Xiu wasn't around. Umo's face was swollen as he raised his chin and softly said, Peerless Palace was destroyed. The annihilation of the Peerless Palace has shaken all the divisions. Many have begun to impeach His Highness. Now all the elders are here and waiting in the main hall. His Highness just left. Yanqing was shocked. All the elders are here? Why are they so fast? Umo snorted. Someone has long disliked His Highness. Now that they finally have a chance, why would they let it go? Yanqing nodded with a serious expression. This day was bound to come. Since His Highness has already taken action, he naturally made preparations. This time, we should be able to clean up quite a lot of dirty things. Taiyuan Hall. All the elders were seated on both sides. The atmosphere in the hall was cold. His Highness Saint suddenly destroyed Peerless Palace this time. He's too stubborn. Why did he do this all of a sudden? Even if Peerless Palace did something wrong, he shouldn't be so cruel. All the tribes are talking about it now. They are all waiting for His Highness to give an explanation. Although His Highness the Chosen One has a strong fist, his actions are a little too much. A voice suddenly sounded, breaking the suffocating atmosphere. His Highness Saint has arrived. When the voice sounded, everyone immediately looked up at the entrance of the hall. A tall and slender figure, draped in a black cloak, exuding a cold and tough aura, walked in. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 598. His body was clean, but his whole body was filled with a strong smell of blood. He had the appearance of a banished immortal, but he looked more like a killing god from hell. He strode over, and his footsteps fell heavily on the hearts of the crowd. Thud, thud, thud. He finally stood in the middle of the hall. The entire hall fell silent for a moment, and everyone was stunned by the man's aura. He was so young, but he did not lose in front of so many revered elders. Many people's hearts were pounding. Although the Holy Sun was young, he was already standing at the peak. His aura was very different from before. A few years ago, when he had just ascended to the position of Holy Sun, he was still young and inexperienced. But unknowingly, even they began to feel a little afraid. This was the confidence that came from having great power and power. None of the people who had been prepared to question him opened their mouths at this moment. Rong Xiu was the first to break the silence. All of you revered elders are of noble status, and you usually live in seclusion. Why are all of you here today? Everyone came to their senses and looked at each other. That's right. They were here today to find trouble with Rong Xiu. How could they be scared the moment they saw him? An elder who was sitting closer to the seat of honor stroked his beard and spoke in a deep voice. Your Highness Holy Sun, I heard that you just annihilated the entire Peerless Palace? Rong Xiu nodded indifferently and said casually. That's right. He admitted it so calmly that the crowd did not know how to respond. Wasn't he too self-righteous? Even if he was the Holy Sun, it was too much for him to be so presumptuous. The elder's face turned cold, and his voice was even colder. Your Highness, the Peerless Palace is one of the 28 divisions, and they have never made any big mistakes. Your actions have disappointed the people of the other divisions. You are too careless. As soon as he opened his mouth, many people immediately agreed with him. That's right. Your Highness attacked them for no reason. How do you explain it to the other divisions? You've been away for a long time. Now that you've returned, you've killed everyone from the unparalleled palace. Not a single one of them was spared. It's inevitable that you'll be criticized. Now that the impeachment of the various departments is flying in like snowflakes, if you still don't appear and give an explanation, I'm afraid it will be difficult to convince the public. A commotion broke out in the hall in an instant. On the surface, it looked like they were doing it for the sake of Rong Xiu's reputation and the safety of the troops. However, every word and sentence was criticizing Rong Xiu for being too impulsive and too cruel. Rong Xiu stood there quietly, as if he was listening, but also as if he wasn't. In short, there was no change in his expression from beginning to end. His reaction naturally caused many people to be dissatisfied. Your Highness, His Highness the Holy Sun, are you still listening? Now that this matter has gotten out of hand, are you not going to resolve it? The old man who spoke first asked with a stern expression. Hearing this, Rong Xiu's thin red lips curled into a smile, but it was extremely cold. As the Holy Sun, I am in charge of the 28 departments. However, the impeachment of the various departments is now in the hands of Elder Tong Chuan. Everyone suddenly fell silent. Elder Tong Chuan's expression suddenly froze. He was so focused on using this opportunity to teach Rong Xiu a lesson that he forgot that he was the one who accepted the impeachment of the Holy Sun. He paused for a moment, then reluctantly said, "Previously, Your Highness the Holy Sun was not here. That's why the impeachment came to this old man." Rong Xiu said indifferently, "I have been back for more than half a month. Other than the day when I led the troops to kill the unparalleled palace, I've been here the rest of the time. However, from beginning to end, I didn't see Elder Tong Chuan send the impeachment back. I almost thought that you were going to take full control of the situation." Elder Tong Chuan's expression became even uglier. If these words were to spread, it would affect his reputation greatly. His aggressive aura finally subsided a lot. "Your Highness, you've misunderstood. Originally, this old man wanted to wait for you to come back this time and hand these impediments to you. However, because of the unparalleled palace, this old man didn't have time to take care of them." Rong Xiu smiled slightly. "I deeply agree. Elder Tong Chuan is a person of virtue and prestige. He would never do such a thing. I'll have to trouble Elder Tong Chuan to return all the impediments to I later." Elder Tong Chuan could only agree. The two of them went back and forth. Under the calm surface, there was a surging undercurrent. Everyone felt the biting cold murderous intent floating in the air, and all of them shut their mouths. Rong Xiu looked around and slowly said, "That's right. I naturally have my reasons for making a move on the unparalleled palace. When I was away, the unparalleled palace sent people to assassinate me. Such a crime is naturally unforgivable." Everyone looked at each other. Some were shocked, some were suspicious. Elder Tong Chuan hesitated for a moment and said, "Even if it was really someone from the unparalleled palace who tried to assassinate Your Highness, it would be enough to capture that person and kill him. If not, it would be enough to deal with everyone involved as a warning. Why did you have to kill them? Your Highness' actions are too. That person has no enmity with I. He must have been ordered by someone to do this. Zhang Yufeng couldn't even handle such a small matter properly. Naturally, he should be punished. Moreover, the unparalleled palace has repeatedly offended me. I tolerated them time and time again. I thought they would admit their mistakes. I didn't expect them to raise a tiger and almost cause a disaster." Rong Xiu's gaze was as cold as a knife as it swept across everyone. The unparalleled palace's intention to rebel is clear. Since they have already done this, why should I be merciful? Moreover, to say that I is ruthless. He suddenly laughed with a disdainful expression. "I have always been like this. So what?" His tone was calm and indifferent, but it was so reasonable that it made everyone speechless. That's right. If Rong Xiu was a merciful person, how could he be the Holy Sun? Honorable Tong Chuan opened his mouth, but did not say anything. Rong Xiu continued, "I know that there are many people who don't agree with I. I don't care about the small matters on a daily basis. It's just that I don't care about it. But if there are really people who are interested in the position of I will be happy to fight with them. The unparalleled palace is a precedent." Everyone was shocked. Rong Xiu was killing the chicken to warn the monkey. Maybe it was because Rong Xiu had repeatedly backed down a few years ago that they had forgotten what kind of person Rong Xiu was. Until now they were suddenly awakened. How could someone who could take the Holy Sun's position be a pushover? Did he mean that, from now on, he would have to adopt a tough attitude and methods? Many people recalled the bloody scene a few years ago and looked at Honorable Elder Tong Chuan anxiously. Honorable Elder Tong Chuan took a deep breath and said, "Your Highness is right. But there are many people in the division. If you continue to use such an iron fist to deal with them, it will definitely cause them to resent you." Before he could finish, a burst of laughter came from outside the hall. "Haha, this is a world where strength is respected. What's wrong with Your Highness doing this?" Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 599. This voice was low and deep, full of energy. It seemed to have come from far away, but it was like thunder, exploding in everyone's ears. Hearing this voice, respected Elder Tong Chuan's face changed. Many people in the hall had their expressions stiffened. Like a bolt of lightning, a figure broke through the void and arrived. In the blink of an eye, he appeared at the entrance of the hall. It was a slightly plump old man. His round face had a kind smile, and his eyes were curved into slits. He strode in, his footsteps light, and his landing was silent. However, when they saw this person enter, everyone in the hall became restless. Rongxiu looked back, his lips curling. 36 Respected Elder Ming, why are you here? I heard that your highness has finally cleaned up those bastards from the unparalleled palace. This old man is very happy, so I'm here to celebrate. 36 Respected Elder Ming said with a smile, not hiding the joy and excitement on his face. He had long found the unparalleled palace an eyesore. Rongxiu had held back for so long, and finally made his move. And it was a one-hit kill. He was very happy. Your highness, I heard that you didn't bring many people this time, and you took care of all the people from the unparalleled palace in a day. It seems that your highness has improved a lot recently. Everyone was even more silent. Why was 36 Respected Elder Ming's focus always different from everyone else? However, he was very strong. Among all the respected elders, he was one of the most senior. Normal people could only lower their heads in front of him. When they faced Rongxiu, they might be able to use their status and seniority to put on airs. However, when facing 36 Respected Elder Ming, they definitely did not have the guts. Even Respected Elder Tong Chuan tried his best to avoid provoking him. Rongxiu's smile deepened. Thank you for your praise, 36 Respected Elder Ming. During this period of time, I have indeed gained quite a lot. 36 Respected Elder Ming rubbed his chin and chuckled. That's right. He had even found a wife. What else was there to say? He turned his head to look at Elder Xian Tongchuan. His face was still smiling, but his words were not as polite. Tong Chuan, back then, our ancestor single-handedly swept through 28 tribes, and millions of people submitted to him. What they relied on was strength. Why are you so against it when it comes to His Highness the Holy Sun? The people of the Peerless Palace had repeatedly disobeyed their superiors. Now they had even attempted to assassinate the Holy Sun. They should have been executed long ago. Only in this way would he be able to suppress the other people who had their own thoughts. In my opinion, Your Highness's actions are not wrong at all. On the contrary, it is extremely good. Since he was the Holy Sun, he should have the means and dignity of a Holy Sun. In the past, Rongxiu had many misgivings, which was why he chose to give in time and time again. But now what was there to give in to? Respected Elder Tong Chuan opened his mouth and was about to say something when he was interrupted by 36 Respected Elder Ming. If you are dissatisfied with His Highness the Holy Sun's actions, aren't you implying that our ancestor is cruel and cold-blooded? Elder Tong Chuan suddenly stood up. This old man didn't mean that. 36 Respected Elder Ming, don't randomly accuse me. Did this old man accuse you, or did you accuse me? Everyone is very clear about it. What are you shouting for? 36 Respected Elder Ming said lazily. Respected Elder Tong Chuan's face flushed red. It was fine if this old thing didn't come out normally, but the moment he came out, he would cause a ruckus, relying on his status to do whatever he wanted, and there was nothing he could do about it. 36 Respected Elder Ming's cold gaze swept across the crowd. The 28 tribes are all revered by the Holy Sun. Since the Holy Sun is cleaning up the sect, how could it be their turn to complain? And all of you have status. Instead of thinking about how to solve this problem, you came to question the Holy Sun. Do you still have any rules? He looked amiable, but when he said those words, it was like a slap to everyone's face. Rongxiu said warmly, 36 Respected Elder Ming, all of you are also thinking for the sake of I and the 28 tribes. I think that this kind of thing will not happen. Isn't that right, everyone? After a short moment of silence, a respected elder finally stood up and bowed deeply to Rongxiu and 36 Respected Elder Ming. Your Highness, you don't have to explain for us. 36 Respected Elder Ming is right. We have indeed not considered this matter thoroughly. Please forgive us, Your Highness. Once someone took the lead, the rest of the people naturally followed suit. Very quickly, half of the people in the hall had expressed their attitudes and left one after another. The originally solemn and dignified battle array gradually became scattered and disorderly. Respected Elder Tong Chuan was so angry that his face turned pale, but he didn't dare to say anything. 36 respected Elder Ming's status was higher than his, and he never acted according to common sense. He was extremely difficult to deal with. If he wasn't forced into a corner, he wouldn't have gone against him. His anger went back and forth between his chest and abdomen, making him feel very uncomfortable. In the end, seeing that this condemnation couldn't continue, he also stood up and planned to leave. Just as he was about to step out of the door, Rong Xiu's voice came from behind him, neither too fast nor too slow. Respected Elder Tong Chuan, please don't forget to send those reports back. Also, since I have already returned, then we don't need to trouble respected Elder Tong Chuan to review the reports of the 28 divisions anymore. Respected Elder Tong Chuan's back was facing Rong Xiu, his face red and white. In the end, he could only stiffly agree and quickly leave. In the entire hall, only Rong Xiu and 36 respected Elder Ming were left. Today this old man came at the right time. 36 respected Elder Ming chuckled. Those little brats are also thanks to this old man's teachings. Their cooperation is also not bad, right? Rong Xiu smiled. Thank you for coming out personally today. Some words were not suitable for him to say, but for 36 respected Elder Ming to say it, it was twice the result with half the effort. At the very least, from today onwards, no one would dare to make an issue out of him being vicious and merciless. No matter how many people died in the unparalleled palace, no one would speak up for them. He had gained the upper hand this time, and many things would be much more convenient in the future. 36 respected Elder Ming waved his hand indifferently. This old man has already come out of seclusion to help you for so long. This time won't make a difference. If you really want to thank me, why don't you bring your little princess back as soon as possible, and let this old man take a look at her? Rong Xiu's sword-like eyebrows raised slightly. 36 respected Elder Ming was really persistent about this matter. She still has very important things to do, so she probably won't be able to come during this period of time. Just as Rong Xiu finished speaking, he saw Yin Qing rushing in from outside. Your Highness! He had been waiting outside the entire time. When he saw that all the respected elders had come out, he thought that the matter here had already ended, so he immediately came over. Yin Qing presented a letter with both hands. Miss Lu, you said that you must open it personally. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 600. 36 respected Elder Ming's eyes lit up. It's a letter from your little princess. Open it and take a look. Rong Xiu's lips curled up slightly as he took the letter. His slender fingers brushed past the seal of the letter, but he suddenly paused. Rong Xiu looked up and glanced at 36 respected Elder Ming. Do you plan to take a look at this letter too? Then, 36 respected Elder Ming instinctively opened his mouth. Then, he noticed that it seemed inappropriate and quickly coughed. It's fine. Since it's a letter for you, it's naturally inappropriate for me to read it. Take a look. As he spoke, he even took a step back. Rong Xiu then opened it. There was only a short line of words on the letter. Unfolding Xiangyi Xian. The moon shines for thousands of miles. Signed you. Rong Xiu held the letter and looked at that sentence. He kept it in his heart as his fingertips curled up slightly. Although it was only one sentence, it was enough for him. 36 respected Elder Ming stood at the side and watched as Rong Xiu looked like a completely different person after he opened the letter. The murderous aura on his body dissipated completely. His eyebrows relaxed as if the ice and snow in early spring had melted. This Rong Xiu was indeed something that had never happened before. 36 respected Elder Ming sighed in his heart and couldn't help but be even more curious. What kind of woman could make him fall in love with her so much? He wanted to take a look at the letter, but after thinking about it, he gave up. It was meaningless for an old man like him to read a love letter between a young couple. However, seeing that Rong Xiu was in such a good mood, he could make a request. That, Your Highness, the little princess has personally written a letter to you. Do you really not plan to visit her? It's better for young people to meet more. Rong Xiu read the letter twice before carefully keeping it. Then, he looked at 36 respected Elder Ming and asked, Do you want to go together? 36 respected Elder Ming was embarrassed for a moment after his thoughts were exposed, but he quickly nodded. That's right. Since I have nothing to do recently, why don't I go and take a look? Rongxiu thought for a moment and smiled. She should be at her busiest right now. I'm afraid it's not a good time to go now. Of course, he missed her very much, but with his current identity, it was really a little troublesome for him to go over legitimately. A trace of disappointment flashed across 36 respected Elder Ming's face. After pausing for a moment, he asked unwillingly, You're really not going? Rongxiu had actually planned to wait for Chu Luiyue to settle down in West Hill before going there. However, just as he was about to nod, he saw Yin Qing's hesitant expression. Your Highness, there's something that I don't know if I should say. Rongxiu narrowed his eyes. Something to do with the West Hill? Yin Qing nodded. Just say it, Rongxiu said calmly. The current shilling actually referred to Chu Luiyue. Since it was news about her, he naturally had to listen. Yin Qing hesitated for a moment before saying, Recently, a strange young man suddenly appeared by Miss Lu Yu's side. Rongxiu paused. Immediately after, Yin Qing told Rongxiu about what she saw that day. With every sentence, Rongxiu's expression turned a little colder. Later on, I went to ask around. It was said that Miss Lu Yu met him at the Wanzheng competition. It seemed. Yin Qing's voice gradually became softer. Seemed what? Rongxiu asked calmly. Yin Qing shuddered, but he still opened his mouth to speak honestly. They seemed to hit it off very well. Miss Lu Yu seemed to use that young man as a follower. Follower? She had always done things cleanly. Basically, she could handle everything by herself. Why would she need a follower all of a sudden? Moreover, she always seemed to be polite and modest, but in fact there were very few people who caught her eye. That young man could be so close to her. It was obvious that he had gained her trust. Rongxiu's face was expressionless. His fingers gently rubbed the letter twice. Go and inform Yuemo to follow I to Xiling. Yin Qing hurriedly said. Yes. When does your highness plan to set off? Before he could finish, Rongxiu glanced at him lightly. I'll give you an hour to pack. Yin Qing's heart skipped a beat. I'll go right away. With that, Yin Qing quickly got up and left. Seeing his figure disappear in front of him, 36 respected Elder Ming chuckled and teased. Your Highness, didn't you just say that the young princess consort is very busy recently, and that you would visit her later? Rongxiu's long eyelashes fluttered. It's precisely because she's busy that I will go and help her personally. It'll save me the trouble of finding a follower. 36 respected Elder Ming rubbed his hands excitedly. I'll go too. Rongxiu glanced at him. Respected Elder, now that the unparalleled palace's problem has just been solved, there are still many follow-up matters that need someone to watch over. There shouldn't be anyone more suitable than you, right? 36 respected Elder Ming's face instantly fell. What else could there be to do? After today's incident, Tong Chuan and the rest would have to stay put for a long time. This kid just doesn't want me to go, right? He coughed. I promise that I'll only go and take a look at the young princess consort. I definitely won't interfere. Rongxiu seemed to have thought of something. His eyes flickered, and he finally nodded. All right. At that moment, Chu Luiyue naturally didn't know that Rongxiu, who was thousands of miles away, was planning to rush over. Right now, all her energy was placed on the cloud sky copper sword. Night fell, and the galaxy was boundless. The power between heaven and earth constantly gathered on the star stone. Chu Luiyue was on it, polishing the long sword in her hand. Once again, mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 601. The rough, low, and hoarse sound of friction sounded especially cold in the quiet night. Time passed slowly, and Chu Luiyue maintained this posture from start to finish, as though she did not know fatigue. But in reality, her arm was already extremely sore, and it did not feel like it was hers anymore. Now, she was only relying on her willpower to force herself to continue. Only when she really could not take it anymore would she stop and rest for a while. But most of the time, She was still polishing this cloud sky copper sword. A night's time passed quietly. The next morning, when the morning light shone on Chu Luiyue, she finally put down the sword in her hand and stood on the star stone to stretch her body. Crackling sounds could be heard. Chu Luiyue felt as though she had come back to life. After calming down for a while, she picked up the cloud sky copper sword again, wanting to see the results of the night's polishing. Then the expectant expression on her face froze. Because this cloud sky copper sword had only been polished off a thin layer, compared to its thick and broad body, it was simply negligible. If it were not for the fact that the surface was obviously much smoother, she would almost suspect that this sword had not undergone any changes at all. She widened her eyes in disbelief, and looked at it over and over again. After a while, she finally accepted this fact with difficulty. She had spent the entire night polishing without any sleep, and did not allow this cloud sky copper sword to have any substantial progress. Lass, what's the hurry? Do you think it's so easy to forge a good sword? Taizu seemed to have already expected Chu Luiyue's reaction, and spoke slowly. Chu Luiyue exhaled. I thought. Now she finally understood what Taizu had said before. This process required a large amount of energy and mental strength. This was much more difficult than she had expected. Don't worry. Yesterday was only the first day, and you are not very familiar with it. After more times, you will know how to use your strength, and it will naturally be much faster. Taizu consoled her. Thank you, Taizu, for your guidance. Chu Luiyue kept the cloud sky copper sword in the star stone, planning to come again at night. She was already prepared to fight a long battle. No matter what, she must forge this sword. Chu Luiyue returned to Mount Qingyuan and tidied up a little. Then, as usual, he went to the herb garden to look after it for a while. Without the influence of the mest yuan gravel, these herbs grew very smoothly. However, she found that her senior brothers and sisters seemed to have become very busy. In the past, they would often come to the herb garden to take a look. However, today, Chu Luiyue stayed alone in the herb garden for a long time. It was only when he was about to leave that he saw a senior sister. After chatting with his senior sister for a while, Chu Luiyue found out that they were actually preparing for the sect assembly that would be held a month later. After the news spread, all the disciples of the Chongshu Pavilion were on high alert. They knew very well that this time, almost everyone was here for the Chongshu Pavilion. The Nine-Star Alliance had been coveting the position of one of the four major sects for a long time. Obviously, they had added fuel to the fire when the conference was brought forward. Only if they were strong enough and performed well enough at the sect meeting could they keep the Chongshu Pavilion's current position. Therefore, everyone entered a state of diligent cultivation. Chu Luiyue arrived at Yuchi-sang's residence alone. When she arrived, he was sitting on a stone bench in the courtyard. There was a chessboard on the stone table in front of him. The chessboard looked familiar. Chu Luiyue took a closer look and recognized that the chessboard was the one that she had given to Yuchi-sang. At that time, she was still young and had found her own jade material to carve. However, because the jade material was hard, it took her a lot of effort to carve it. Some of the details were very rough. Even when she thought about it later, she felt that it was too horrible to look at. She thought that he had thrown the chessboard to a corner long ago. She didn't expect that. He still had it intact. Master. She lowered her voice. Yuchi-sang came back to his senses. There was still a trace of confusion in his eyes. Obviously, he was not looking at the chessboard just now. Instead, he was thinking about something. Luyu, you're here. Chu Luiyue walked over and carefully looked at Yuchi-sang. She was slightly surprised. It had only been one night, but Yuchi-sang seemed to have aged several years in an instant. His eyes were red, and there were dark circles under his eyes. It seemed that he hadn't slept all night. He looked very haggard. Obviously, what happened yesterday had a great impact on him. Chu Luiyue's heart ached faintly. She quickly lowered her eyes. Master, I'm here today because I have something to give you. Yuchi-sang looked at her in confusion. Chu Luiyue took out some things from the interspatial ring one after another. At first, Yuchi-sang didn't react. But after he opened 2 boxes in a row, he immediately realized something and looked at Chu Luiyue in shock. These These are the things you sold to 100 Herbs building before. I've brought them back for you. As Chu Liyue spoke, she took out the last few things. A small hill quickly piled up at their feet. Except for those that have been sold, the rest are here, Chu Liyue said. Yuchi-song looked at those things in a daze, and his lips trembled slightly. Lu Yu, you don't have to do this, Chu Liyue said. I don't know what you don't want to give up, so I tried my best to bring all of them back. These things may be just ordinary things for others, but they may be very important to you. Since I have the ability, I should help you. Yuchi-song seemed to be choked by something. After a while, he looked at Chu Liyue with a complicated expression. How did you get so much money? He knew that Chu Liyue spent Mu Qinghe's money when she went to 100 Herbs building for the first time. But now she had moved out of Mu Qinghe's house, and basically had no contact with Mu Qinghe. She definitely couldn't spend Mu Qinghe's money anymore. And these things added up were worth a lot. You don't have to worry about that. If I couldn't afford it, I wouldn't have helped you bring these back. After Chu Liyue finished speaking, she saw that Yuchi-song still seemed to be quite worried. She could only tell Yuchi-song about her extortion of Jian Fengqi. Of course, she only mentioned it briefly, and didn't mention the specifics. However, Yuchi-song was still shocked after hearing it. He only knew that Jian Fengqi had always liked to play, but he didn't know that he was so good at it that he could earn so much money in just a few minutes. But after listening to Chu Liyue, his mood was indeed much better. Looking at the things piled up at his feet, he was silent for a long time before he finally said, If that's the case, I won't refuse. Liyue, I owe you a favor. Chu Liyue shook her head gently. Master, you and I are master and disciple. You're being too polite with me. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 602. She truly regarded Yuchi-song as her master, and respected him from the bottom of her heart. She didn't have this opportunity in the past and owed him a lot. Now she finally had the chance to repay him. Yuchi-song looked at Chu Liyue, and his eyes seemed to ripple. He only spoke softly after a long while. After a long time he said softly, Liyue, you've just become my disciple, but you've already done so much. Logically speaking, even if they were master and disciple, they wouldn't have done so much for each other after just knowing each other for such a long time. But from the beginning, Chu Liyue seemed to have no reservations about him and the Chongshu Pavilion. Whether it was choosing the Chongshu Pavilion among the many sects without hesitation at the beginning, or helping him redeem these things later, there was nothing to say. This was definitely not something that could be done with money. More importantly, it contained her intentions. Chu Liyue tilted his head and smiled, his eyes curved. Didn't Master help me a lot too? If it weren't for you, Xiaozhou and I might not even have a place to live now. Yuchi-song's mouth curved, but he didn't say anything. According to Chu Liyue's ability, even if he didn't help and gave them that house, they would definitely be able to find another good place to live. He wanted to ask again, but when he saw the sincere smile on Chu Liyue's face, he suddenly couldn't say anything. In fact, when he first saw her, he also felt that she was very compatible with him. For some reason, when facing Chu Liyue, he would always be exceptionally soft-hearted and close. Otherwise, he wouldn't have given her the whistle that he had originally planned to give to Little Crescent Moon. That was an item that he had originally planned to bring into the coffin, although he had given one to Chu Liyue and Chang Wanzhou each. In fact, a large part of the reason was because of Chu Liyue. Perhaps sometimes the fate between two people was just this subtle. Liyue, how about playing a game of chess with me? Yuchi-song suddenly said. Chu Liyue's heart skipped a beat. Sure. Yuchi-song said. Just now, I was playing by myself. You were playing the white piece. It's your turn to go now. Chu Liyue took out a chess piece from the jar beside him. It was cool to the touch, smooth and tough. It could be seen that Yuchi-song had played a lot of Go, which was why he was able to grind the Go piece to such a state. Chu Liyue glanced at the chessboard, thought for a moment, and then put down a white piece. Slap! The jade stones collided with each other, emitting a soft and clear sound. Yuchi-sang's attention was quickly drawn to the game. The two of them exchanged blows and began to fight. After Chu Luyue played a few chess pieces, he said in a seemingly unintentional manner, "Master, your chessboard doesn't look like an ordinary chessboard." Yuchi-sang smiled with relief and reminisced. Little Crescent Moon personally made this for me. Chu Luyue gently nodded. After a while, he placed down another piece and said softly, "I've always heard you mention her. What kind of person is she?" This question opened Yuchi-sang's mouth. As he played Go, he told Chu Luyue about Little Crescent Moon in detail. In the past, he was unwilling to tell others about this. However, perhaps because he had experienced too much in the past 2 days, he was very tired and wanted to find someone to talk to. Thus he subconsciously said a lot. Chu Luyue listened to him quietly and occasionally chimed in with him. However, after listening, she realized that there were many things that she did not remember. But Yuchi-sang remembered them very clearly. Her heart seemed to be surrounded by some gentleness. After experiencing those bone-chilling betrayals, such gentleness and care seemed extremely precious. The two of them played a few games of Go without realizing it. After half a day, Chu Luyue stood up and bade farewell. In the next few days, Chu Luyue cultivated in her room during the day, and went to Yen Linfeng to sharpen the Cloud Sky Copper sword at night. Although the speed of sharpening the sword was still very slow, she was indeed becoming more and more skilled with each passing day. In the end, her progress gradually became obvious. What made her even more gratified was that in this process, her physical strength had indeed increased by quite a bit. Hence, she was even more motivated to sharpen the Cloud Sky Copper sword. Chu Luyue stayed on Qingyuan Mountain just like that. Her daily life was simple and plain. Chu Luyue's side was quiet, but Xiling City became lively. The news of Jian Fengqi spending 6,600,000 white crystal coins to buy a slave with a faint yuan body quickly spread throughout Xiling City. Mu Hongyu was a living person. There was no way she could hide. Even if she could hide it for a day or two, she would still be discovered immediately when she appeared in front of everyone in the future. Hence, Jian Fengqi didn't even think of hiding this matter. In any case, he had spent the money openly. No one could do anything to him. In the end, he didn't expect that everything would be fine outside. Instead, when he brought Mu Hongyu back to Dragon Teeth Mountain, he was attacked by his old father head-on. He had just stepped through the gate of Dragon Teeth Mountain when he was caught by Jian Shai. "Brat, you still dare to come back?" Jian Fengqi was stunned. He looked at his father who was in a rage and was stunned. "Father, what's wrong with you? What's wrong? You still have the nerve to ask me what's wrong. Why don't you look at what you've done?" As Jian Shai spoke, he continued to hit Jian Fengqi. Jian Fengqi wanted to run without hesitation. He couldn't return to this home. However, how could he be Jian Shai's match? Before he could run 2 steps, he was blocked. Jian Fengqi immediately admitted his guilt. "Father, I was wrong." Only then did Jian Shai stop. However, one of his hands was still in the air, as if he would continue to hit him at any time. "Speak. How did you do wrong?" Jian Fengqi thought frantically, but he still couldn't figure it out. He could only ask tentatively, "Your son has done too many wrong things. Which one are you talking about?" "Little brat." Jian Shai's slap finally landed fiercely. "You're usually arrogant and presumptuous, and your mother always indulges you. Now just because you have some money, you even dare to buy a slave. You've grown up." Jian Fengqi finally understood that it was because of Mu Hongyu. He tried to hide as he explained, "Father, I did this for a reason." "What other reason could there be? Don't tell me it's because of her faint yuan body. Do you think I don't know what kind of character you have? I've heard that the little girl is very beautiful. Did you go for that?" It was fine that he was usually dissolute, but now, he actually did such a thing. It was simply embarrassing. Jian Fengqi was stunned. Only then did he understand what his father meant. He asked with a strange expression, "Father, do you think I bought her back because of her appearance? What else?" Jian Shai's chest heaved as he glared and said, "If you weren't so insensible, would Lu Yu abandon our Dragon Teeth Mountain and run to the Chongshu Pavilion?" Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 603. Jian Fengqi was taken aback. Well, what did this have to do with? Chu Luiyue chose the Chongshu Pavilion. Wasn't that her choice? What did it have to do with him? However, in Jian Shai's eyes, his dumbfounded look was a sign of guilt. He pointed at Jian Fengqi's nose and said angrily, You, not only did you hurt Lu Yu's heart, you even dragged other girls into this. How could I have a son like you? Jian Fengqi closed his eyes with a headache. This was a big misunderstanding. Father, where did you hear all this from? Don't you even trust your own son? Jian Shai was heartbroken. If you were reliable, would I, your father, be like this? It's all your fault. Jian Fengqi was speechless. He said weakly, No matter what, you have to give me a chance to explain, right? Jian Shai finally said, Get in here. Jian Fengqi was secretly glad that he had asked Mu Hongyu to wait outside the mountain gate before he came back. Otherwise, if she saw this scene, he would lose all his face. Then I'll invite Hongyu over. As he spoke, he turned around and suddenly saw that Mu Hongyu had come over. She was standing not far away and watching this scene. A disciple of Dragon Teeth Mountain was standing next to her. Jian Fengqi's eyelids twitched violently. Did she see everything just now? Jian Shai saw that he was stunned and couldn't help but sneer. Since you dared to bring her back, why don't you dare to let her come up? I've already asked someone to invite her over. With that, he walked past the stiff Jian Fengqi and walked toward Mu Hongyu. When he got closer and saw Mu Hongyu's appearance, he cursed Jian Fengqi even more fiercely in his heart. This girl looks like she's only in her teens. How dare he? Thinking of this, Jian Shai's face revealed a kind smile. He wanted to make himself look less fierce, for fear of scaring the girl. Young lady, I'm the Mountain Lord of Dragon Teeth Mountain. What's your name? Mu Hongyu was also stunned when she saw the scene when she came up. Who would have thought that Jian Fengqi, who was so arrogant and unbridled, would actually be chased and beaten up? And this person should be Jian Fengqi's father. She hurriedly bowed. My daughter Mu Hongyu greets the mountain chieftain. Jian Shai saw that she was clean and well-mannered, but her body seemed to have suffered a lot of injuries. His heart was immediately filled with tenderness. Don't be nervous. With me and his mother around, that brat won't dare to bully you. If he had wronged you before, feel free to tell me. I will definitely help you teach him a lesson. Mu Hongyu blinked. That, Lord Mountain Lord, you seem to have misunderstood. Young Master Jian didn't make me feel wronged. In fact, it was all thanks to him that I was able to escape from Yuxiang Hall. Jian Shai secretly thought that this young lady was naive. Others might be interested in the faint Yuan body, but Jian Fengqi definitely wouldn't. He was only so extravagant because he had a little more money in his hands. Now the entire West Hill was filled with rumors that Jian Fengqi had ulterior motives for being so extravagant. Otherwise, with his talent and wealth, why would he need to do this? More importantly, if Lu Yu knew about this, wouldn't he look down on Jian Fengqi even more? To think that he had painstakingly persuaded Chu Luiyue to come to Dragon Teeth Mountain in Thousand View Garden. It was all ruined by this brat. Jian Shai said in a low voice, Hongyu, don't worry. After you come here, no one will dare to do anything to you. I will help you make the decision. Mu Hongyu couldn't help but glance at Jian Fengqi behind him. Your father seems to have gotten something wrong. Jian Fengqi was expressionless. It was rare for him to do a good thing. But why did it seem like he was still in the wrong? Jian Shai saw Mu Hongyu secretly looking at Jian Fengqi and thought that she was being threatened by Jian Fengqi. He was even angrier. This brat had let down Lu Yu and Mu Hongyu. Mu Hongyu saw that his face was even angrier and knew that he had misunderstood. She hurriedly said, Hill Master, you have misunderstood. Young Master Jian and I are friends. So is Lu Yu. Jian Shai was stunned. What did you say? Mu Hongyu explained. You don't know. Lu Yu and I are both from the Empire of Yaochen. We have known each other for a long time, and are also from the same academy. We have a good relationship. When we were in the Empire of Yaochen, we met young Master Jian. Young Master Jian even took care of my mother's health. The more Jianshai listened, the stranger he felt. The more he listened, the more he felt that something was wrong. Why did this sound different from what he had expected? This time, I accidentally wandered here. Coincidentally, young Master Jian and Lu Yu were both in Yuxiang Hall. Young Master Jian helped and bought me and brought me out. We just came back from Lu Yu's place. Jianshai reacted for a moment, and his expression immediately became very interesting. This meant that his son didn't go out to harm little girls, but went to help a friend instead? Then didn't he just? Jianshai slowly asked. Is what you said true? Mu Hongyu hurriedly nodded. What I said just now was not a lie. You have really misunderstood young Master Jian this time. Jianshai's neck stiffened as he turned to look at Jian Fengqi. Jian Fengqi suddenly smiled coldly. Did you hear that? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 604. Jianshai coughed hard with his fist against his lips. So, you really did it to help, Hongyu? Jian Fengqi's smile became colder. If you don't believe me, you can go to the Chongshu Pavilion and ask Chu Luiyue now. Jianshai finally felt guilty. It seems that I really misunderstood my son? Then before this, you and Lu Yu. Jian Fengqi's eyebrows twitched. He suddenly had an ominous premonition. You misunderstood me and her. You even said that I invited her to Dragon Teeth Mountain? What's going on? Jianshai laughed. Nothing. I just casually chatted with Lu Yu. Jian Fengqi didn't believe him. He took 2 steps forward and looked at his father. Did you say something that you shouldn't have? Jianshai avoided his gaze. Actually, I didn't say anything. I just thought that the girl was smart, pretty and knowledgeable. I thought that she would be a good daughter-in-law. But don't worry, I didn't say anything. Dad. Jian Fengqi's face was full of disbelief. He subconsciously glanced at Mu Hongyu next to him. Chu Luiyue and I are really just friends. He had only been away for a while. How did such a big misunderstanding happen? His father actually thought that he liked Chu Luiyue? And he even wanted her to be his daughter-in-law. Jian Fengqi knew his father too well. If he really thought so, he could only imagine what he said to Chu Luiyue that day. Thinking of this scene, Jian Fengqi was so embarrassed that he had goosebumps all over his body. Jianshai muttered strangely. Since you are just friends, why didn't she come to Dragon Teeth Mountain? Jian Fengqi held his forehead in despair. He felt that he had no face to go out and see Chu Luiyue again. And Mu Hongyu Jian Fengqi, who had lived a carefree and happy life for more than 20 years, finally experienced the feeling of being unable to sit still. He wanted to find a hole in the ground to hide in. And all of this was thanks to his father. Jianshai glanced at Mu Hongyu and suddenly remembered something. Then, you brought Mu Hongyu back today because... Jian Fengqi's voice was as cold as ice. I thought that you would be happy to accept a disciple with a faint yuan body. Now it seems that I was wrong. Jianshai was stunned for a moment and immediately reacted. He was surprised and happy. Hongyu is going to join Dragon Teeth Mountains. That's great. Then, he quickly scanned Mu Hongyu from head to toe. A faint body. This girl had a virtual yuan body. This was something that many people begged for but couldn't get. If she could really become his disciple, how much face would she have when she went out? Those old bastards outside must be envious to death. After all this time, it turned out that Jian Fengqi was not happy for him. But for this, Jianshai was overjoyed and nodded repeatedly. Good. Why don't you become my disciple today? Today. Jian Fengqi heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Originally, he was a little worried that his father would be apprehensive because of Mu Hongyu's identity as a slave. But now, it seemed that there was no problem. However, his expression did not change. He only said coldly, "Aren't you a little too impatient? It's not like you haven't accepted a disciple before. Do you have to be so excited?" Jianshai thought about it and agreed. Mu Hongyu had just arrived. He did not want to scare her. Thinking of this, he smiled at Mu Hongyu and said, Hongyu, today is your first time in Dragon Teeth Mountain. Why don't you let this kid show you around? Mu Hongyu did not take the previous misunderstanding to heart. Seeing that Jian Shai was very warm and polite to her, she was very happy. She smiled brightly, and her almond-shaped eyes sparkled. "Thank you very much, Hill Master." Jian Shai exhorted a few more times before leaving. Jian Fengqi and Mu Hongyu were left looking at each other. Jian Fengqi thought for a moment and said, "I'll show you around, and let you familiarize yourself with the place. I'll also ask them to tidy up a place for you to stay." Mu Hongyu nodded with a sincere face. "Young Master Jian, you and Hill Master are great people. I really don't know how to thank you." Jian Fengqi chuckled and reached out his hand. He originally wanted to use the bone fan to hit her head, but when he saw her thin face, his heart skipped a beat. He switched to his other hand and flicked his finger. "Then you can only thank me." 100 Herbs Building. On the 3rd floor. "Master, this is Miss Lu Yu's private room." Yu Ling stood at the side with his shoulders slightly bowed and said respectfully. His face looked calm as usual, but his slightly tensed chin showed his nervousness at this time. He never expected that his master would suddenly come to West Hill at this time. Didn't he say that he wouldn't be coming in the near future, and asked him to take care of everything? But in the blink of an eye, he came directly. When he saw his master here today, he was so scared that his heart almost jumped out of his chest. "Since I received your message last time, I've prepared this room, but Miss Lu Yu hasn't been here yet." Rong Xiao, who was dressed in white, heard this and asked, "What did she buy when she came here?" Yu Ling immediately said, "Miss Lu Yu came here twice. The first time she bought." He thought that his master was just asking casually. After he said a few things, he saw that his master didn't intend to interrupt him, so he had to bite the bullet and continue. Fortunately, when he realized that his master treated Chu Luyue differently, he was particularly concerned about her. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to speak now. It wasn't until Yu Ling's mouth was dry that he told his master everything. A lot of sweat appeared on his forehead. His master didn't get impatient at all, and listened to him from beginning to end. "These are all the things that Miss Lu Yu bought when she came here." Rong Xiao thought for a moment and said, "There seem to be a lot of things that belong to the pavilion master of Chongxi Pavilion, Yuqi Song." Yu Ling was slightly surprised. He didn't expect his master to know about this. He quickly said, "Master is wise. The last time Miss Lu Yu came, she did buy all the things left by Elder Song. Now that she was a disciple of Chongxi Pavilion, she must have bought these things to return to Yuqi Song. In that case, Yuqi Song's luck was really good." Rong Xiao raised the corner of his mouth slightly. Sure enough, this was indeed what she would do. Yu Ling sensed that his master's mood seemed to be better than when he first came, but he didn't dare to ask more. At this moment, there was a sudden noise outside. He could vaguely hear the name Chu Luyue. Rong Xiao narrowed his eyes slightly. Yu Ling's heart sank, and he immediately said, "Master, it seems that someone is making trouble downstairs. I'll go down and take a look." Rong Xiao nodded gently. Yu Ling hurriedly rushed down. When he reached the 1st floor, he saw a young woman standing in the middle of the exhibition hall. She said impatiently, "I said I want all the things that Chu Luyue bought from here for the first time. Don't you understand human language? Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network." Chapter 605. Yu Ling knew this woman. Jiang Yuji. Why did she suddenly cause trouble here? Yu Ling frowned. It was fine if she wanted to cause trouble, but why did she have to find trouble with Chu Luyue? And she chose to do it today. Right now, Master was up there and could hear everything clearly. Thinking of this, Yu Ling felt a chill down his spine, and walked over quickly. "Fourth Miss Jiang, what are you doing?" Hearing the voice, Jiang Yuji looked up and her expression changed slightly. Why was Yu Ling, the manager of 100 Herbs Building, here today? Didn't they say that he rarely appeared? Now that he was here, this matter would be a little troublesome. Jiang Yuji was somewhat afraid of Yu Ling, so she immediately restrained herself. "Manager Yu, so you're here, that's great." As she spoke, she pointed to the crystal cabinet and said, "I'm here today to buy something. But the servant of your 100 Herbs Building actually said that you don't have it? Is this how the 100 Herbs Building does business now?" Yuling smiled slightly. When I came down just now, I seem to have heard fourth Miss Jiang say that. You want to buy the same thing as Miss Chu Luiyue? That's right. Ever since Jiang Yuji was slapped by Jiang Yucheng, she had been locked up in the residence for several days. Today, she finally begged her mother to let her out, so she went straight to 100 Herbs building. Since her brother was unwilling to help, she would do it herself. Yuling's smile remained unchanged. Fourth Miss Jiang, I wonder, do you know what Miss Chu bought here? Jiang Yuji sneered. Are you afraid that I can't afford it? She had a small treasury that she had hidden for many years, and she had asked her mother for a lot of money. Previously, she didn't snatch it from Chu Luiyue because she was afraid that her father would find out and scold her for wasting money. But now, she didn't think so much about it. She had even been slapped in the face. What else was there to worry about? Yuling's expression changed imperceptibly. Of course not. Fourth Miss Jiang is of noble birth. How can you not even take out this little money? It's just that. I still want to make it clear to you. The first time Miss Chu came, she spent 90,000 white crystal coins. The second time, she spent more than 1,000,000. You want to buy the same thing as her? Which time are you referring to? Jiang Yuji's expression froze. Well, what? Yuling thought to himself. This Jiang Yuji is really spoiled by her family. She wants to come out to cause trouble, but she doesn't even know how much confidence the other party has. If she had asked around, she would have found out how much Chu Luiyue had spent on this place. She would not have been so impulsive. Not to mention Jiang Yuji, even Jiang Yuqing might not be so extravagant as to throw out 1,000,000 white crystal coins so casually. Jiang Yuji really didn't know. She vaguely heard that Chu Luiyue had spent a lot of money in the 100 Herbs building, but she never expected that she had spent so much. How could a lowly woman from outside heaven's canopy have so much money? Even if he had Mu Qinghe as his backer, 1,000,000 was still too much. She hesitated for a moment and could only brace herself. The first time, it was that time. She snatched what I wanted. Let's do it according to that time. 90,000 white crystal coins. If she pooled her money together, she could still take it out. Yuling glanced at the servant next to him. Fourth Miss Jiang has already made it very clear. Why aren't you going to prepare it? The servant looked troubled. Manager, the stock in the 100 Herbs building is only enough for Miss Chu Luiyue to pick up next time. So I'm afraid we can't sell it to fourth Miss Jiang now. The manager had said before that the things Miss Chu wanted must be prepared in advance, and no one could touch them. Now that Jiang Yuji wanted to buy it, how could they give it to her? Yuling nodded in understanding. Jiang Yuji was even angrier when she heard this. Your store clearly has it. I want to buy it, but you don't sell it? What kind of logic is this? Yuling explained with a smile. Fourth Miss Jiang, you don't know. Miss Chu is a black gold card VIP of our 100 Herbs building. According to the rules, we naturally have to prioritize her. As for you, I can only apologize to you. How about this? If you have other things that you want, we can give you a discount. I don't want other things. I only want those from Chu Luiyue. The smile on Yuling's face faded a little. Jiang Yuji was not a celestial physician. There was no genius in this field in the entire Jiang mansion. What use would she have for these precious medicinal herbs? It was obvious that she was here to make trouble. Fourth Miss Jiang's request. I'm sorry, but I can't comply with it. Yuling said lightly. If you really need it, then I'll make a list for you later. You can buy it from other places in Shilling City. Jiang Yuji's voice became a little shrill. Manager, are you chasing away a guest? How can that be? Our 100 Herbs building welcomes you very much, but we really can't satisfy your request, so. There seemed to be a ball of anger burning in Jiang Yuji's chest. Nice words. Wasn't it because of Chu Luiyue? During this period of time, every time she encountered something related to Chu Luiyue, she would be especially unlucky. It was as if Chu Luiyue was born to be her nemesis. She looked at Yuling and suddenly sneered. Manager, do you think that Chu Luiyue has Mu Qinghe's backing? Or even that Mu Qinghe will marry Chu Luiyue and become the mistress of the Mu Mansion? Yuling's heart skipped a beat. Master is up there. His expression immediately became serious. Fourth Miss Jiang, please be careful with your words. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 606. Be careful with my words. Didn't these words come from your 100 Herbs building? Jiang Yuji did not notice that Yuling's expression was off. Instead, she thought that she had hit the nail on the head. I remember the first time she came to 100 Herbs building. She brought Duan Ziyu with her. He is Mu Qinghe's confidant. At that time, didn't you also refuse to sell the Xidagarba coral to me because of Duan Ziyu? After that, there was a saying that Chu Liyue's backer was Mu Qinghe. Later, there was a rumor that she had a close relationship with Jian Fengqi. Chu Liyue had only been in Xiling for less than a month, but she had already built a relationship with the two of them. She was really capable, Yuling said coldly. Fourth young Mistress Jiang. If I remember correctly, Miss Chu clearly bid more than you that day, so she took the Xidagarba coral in the end. Jiang Yuji's expression instantly became much uglier, but she still forced herself to say, in short, I'm here today to tell you that Chu Liyue has nothing to do with Mu Qinghe. She has no backer in Xiling City at all. She is just a lowly woman from outside heaven's canopy. Yuling heaved a sigh of relief when he heard the first half of the sentence. But when he heard the second half, all the hair on his body stood on end. He took a step forward and stared at Jiang Yuji. His voice was cold and harsh. Fourth young Mistress Jiang, please take back your words. Jiang Yuji sneered disapprovingly. Why, General Manager you don't believe me. Why don't we invite Vice Admiral Mu over and ask him personally? Yuling secretly cursed Jiang Yuji for being brainless. It was fine if she wanted to die, but she didn't want to drag him down. We already knew that Miss Chu has nothing to do with the Mu clan and Vice Admiral Mu. But now she is an honored guest of 100 Herbs building, so she can't be humiliated like this. If fourth young Mistress Jiang can bear the consequences of offending 100 Herbs building, please continue. Jiang Yuji was stunned for a moment before she realized what he meant. Is he saying? He knew that Chu Liyue doesn't have any backing, but he's protecting her because she spent a lot of money here? Looking at Yuling's cold expression, she couldn't help but shudder in her heart. She was actually a little afraid. She had only spoken the truth. Why did Yuling have such a big reaction? From the looks of it, he actually wanted to make a move on her. Although she was used to being arrogant and domineering, she was still too immature compared to people like Yuling. She couldn't show off at all. I'm just here to tell you. She's not that powerful. Why do you have to treat her like this? Jiang Yuji was both furious and confused. In terms of status, she was much higher than Chu Liyue. So what if Chu Liyue had Mu Qinghe as his backer? Mu Qinghe was her brother's subordinate. But now, Yuling was willing to offend her for Chu Liyue? Are you kidding me? Yuling was also about to go crazy. He didn't check the almanac when he went out today. He actually provoked such an idiot. Chu Liyue didn't have any backers in West Hill, but he did tens of thousands of miles away. And more importantly, that top-notch backer was now standing upstairs. Master must have seen all of this. At the thought of this, Yuling even had the urge to kill Jiang Yuji. He took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, How 100 Herbs building does business is not for 4th Miss Jiang to tell us what to do. Men, please escort 4th Miss Jiang out. Jiang Yuji pointed at herself in disbelief. You're chasing me out? Yuling curled his lips without a smile. It doesn't matter what you say outside, but in the territory of 100 Herbs building, no one is allowed to humiliate a black gold card VIP. 4th Miss Jiang, sorry for the offense. As he spoke, he looked coldly at the servants and guards at the side. What are you waiting for? As soon as the order was given, everyone rushed over. The manager today was so scary. He was even scarier than when he taught those talkative women a lesson that day. Everyone was anxious and hurriedly carried Jiang Yuji out. Jiang Yuji was so angry that her lungs were about to explode. Yuling, how dare you treat me like this? My brother will never let you off. Yuling walked to the door and looked down at Jiang Yuji with a smile. 4th Miss Jiang, our rules have always been like this. Even if eldest young Master Jiang is here, it's the same. And eldest young Master Jiang has been very low-key recently. If he knows about today's matter, who knows who he will find trouble with? Jiang Yuji's heart sank. She suddenly panicked. Yes, she had almost forgotten that her brother had warned her not to cause any more trouble. He still didn't know that she had secretly run out. If today's news reached his ears, he would definitely not let her off easily. Thinking of this, she became afraid. Yuling continued. All right. Fourth Miss Jiang, you don't have to come anymore. Our 100 Herbs building will no longer do business with you from now on. For the sake of eldest young Master Jiang, we won't implicate your family. However, I hope that fourth Miss Jiang will be more careful with your words and actions in the future. Otherwise, you won't know when you cause trouble for yourself. With that, he turned around and walked into the building, leaving Jiang Yuji standing there in a daze. What did he mean by that just now? How dare he treat me like this? Because of anger, Jiang Yuji's face became a little distorted. She wanted to rush in immediately, but Yuling's words just now kept echoing in her mind. She stood there for a long time until the people around her began to point at her. Finally, she fled in a sorry state. Yuling returned to the third floor and saw Rong Xiu sitting quietly in the room. His face was calm, and no emotions could be seen. Yuling was about to speak when he suddenly heard him say, "It seems that she has been having a lot of fun in West Hill during this period." Yuling suddenly shuddered. "Master, actually these are all rumors. You also know that 3 people make a tiger. Miss Lu Yu is actually..." Rong Xiu raised his eyes and looked at him calmly. "Remember, except in front of her, call her madam at all times." Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 607. Yuling was shocked. In an instant his face, which had always been expressionless, had a variety of expressions. "Master?" Rong Xiu asked faintly. "Why? Don't you understand?" Yuling felt a chill all over his body. He quickly controlled his expression and lowered his head. "I understand." Yan Qing, who was standing next to him, looked at him sympathetically. How pitiful. He couldn't see his master all year round. It was indeed difficult for him to face such a big matter as soon as he saw his master. Yuling was sweating all over. I see. When he received the news before, he just felt that his master treated Chu Liyue differently, but he didn't expect it to be to such an extent. When he thought of how Jiang Yuji actually said those words in front of his master just now, this fourth Miss Jiang would probably be in trouble in the future. I heard that when she came here before, she was accompanied by someone. Rong Xiu suddenly asked. Yuling subconsciously said, "You mean Duan Ziyu?" Rong Xiu's hand tapped on the table twice. Yuling's heart turned cold. Yan Qing desperately winked at him. After a while, Yuling reacted. "You mean Chang Wanzhou?" Rong Xiu's expression didn't change, but the aura on his body turned cold. Yuling thought to himself that he was indeed talking about him. Seeing that his master seemed to have become dangerous, Yuling couldn't care less. He hurriedly told him everything he knew about Chang Wanzhou. As he spoke, he found that the expression on his master's face became more indifferent. He felt a little nervous and hurriedly added, "I think Madam treats Chang Wanzhou like a child." Rong Xiu suddenly smiled, and his thin lips curved up as he said with deep meaning, "You're right." So, most of the medicinal materials she bought from here before were for Chang Wanzhou? Yuling was stunned. If he denied it, he would be lying to his master. If he admitted it, he would be putting his neck under the knife. It was not easy to choose either path. I'm not very sure. After all, Madam is a celestial physician. It's normal for her to need medicinal materials. Maybe she wants to refine medicine for herself. Rong Xiu's smile deepened. Yuling immediately shut his mouth. Did she say when she would come back for medicinal materials? Yuling. Tomorrow. Rong Xiu leaned against the chair and gently closed his eyes. Tomorrow then. Why wait until tomorrow? Yuling was curious in his heart, but he didn't dare to ask. So he could only respond respectfully. Yes. On the other side, after Jiang Yuji was chased out of the 100 Herbs building, she was filled with anger and despondent. She walked aimlessly on the street. As he walked, he kept thinking about the things that had happened in this world. No matter how she thought about it, it was all because of Chu Luiyue that she had to suffer all these grievances again and again. Her brother's warning kept echoing in her mind. She bit her lip. Her eyes were red. It was fine if others didn't help her, but even her brother hit her for Chu Luiyue. Wasn't it because she hit the nail on the head? The third princess didn't know, but she knew very well. After waiting for that person to die, another Chu Luiyue popped up. She was like a ghost. As she walked, Jiang Yuji suddenly stopped. She gritted her teeth, turned around and walked toward the palace. Her brother refused to help, and 100 herbs building protected Chu Luiyue in all kinds of ways. Now there was only one person who could teach Chu Luiyue a lesson. The third princess, Shang Guanwan. Shang Guanwan hated Shang Guanyu. Now that she saw Chu Luiyue who was similar to her, it would be strange if Shang Guanwan liked Chu Luiyue. Now that the third princess was second only to one person, even her brother had to listen to her. If Shang Guanwan punished Chu Luiyue, no one could say anything. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that this method was feasible. She quickened her steps. However, she had just walked a short distance when a masked man suddenly appeared in front of her. Alarm bells went off in her heart. He didn't come with good intentions. She quickly looked around and realized that she had unknowingly walked into a remote alley. This masked man just happened to block her way here. She had sneaked out today and didn't dare to bring any guards. Now she was alone. Who are you? What do you want? Jiang Yuji asked fiercely. She could feel that the masked man was very powerful. If he wanted to do anything to her, she wouldn't even have the chance to escape. The masked man didn't say anything. He just walked toward her. Jiang Yuji was afraid and unconsciously retreated. Don't come over. Let me tell you, I'm the fourth young miss of the Jiang residence. The masked man said in a hoarse voice. You're the one I'm looking for. After saying that, his figure instantly disappeared from the spot. Jiang Yuji cried out in surprise. In the next moment, the masked man appeared in front of her. She subconsciously gathered the force in her body and threw a punch. The masked man raised his hand and easily blocked her fist. Jiang Yuji's expression changed. However, the masked man had already grabbed her wrist tightly. He took a step forward and viciously bent it. Ah! Jiang Yuji cried out in pain, and her body immediately went limp on the ground. The masked man continued to attack, beating Jiang Yuji until she couldn't retaliate and could only take it. It was as if the masked man deliberately chose the most painful part of her body to hit. She was in so much pain that her face turned pale. In the end, she couldn't even make a sound of pain. After some time, she finally rolled her eyes and fainted. The masked man stopped and looked at her condescendingly. So weak. With such little strength, she actually dared to be so arrogant in Shilling City. It was obvious that she had been spoiled by her family. The masked man looked at the bruised and swollen Jiang Yuji with satisfaction, and nodded in satisfaction. Finally, there was someone like him. Although he was the one who hit her, looking at her like this made him feel inexplicably refreshed. I'll let you live today, the masked man chuckled. This time, she had really offended someone she shouldn't have. It would be fine if Master wanted to give her a quick death, but he turned around and left. Jiang Yuji, who was lying unconscious on the ground, slowly opened her eyes. However, in the next moment, the masked man who had left appeared again. Jiang Yuji was so scared that her heart almost jumped out of her chest. The masked man suddenly laughed. You can watch more if you want. After all, today is just the beginning. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 608. Jiang Yuji, who was caught red-handed, was filled with panic and fear. In an instant, she felt that her little thoughts had been seen through by the other party. She opened her mouth to speak, but she choked on the blood in her mouth and coughed violently. The masked man sneered. With Jiang Yuji's little combat power, it was not easy for her to live so arrogantly until now. He whistled and quickly disappeared. This time, Jiang Yuji waited for a long time with her heart hanging in the air. Only when she was sure that the masked man would not return did she stand up shakily. The injuries on her body and the fear in her heart made her legs go weak. She could only barely stand by leaning against the wall. She was filled with hatred and fear. Just now, the masked man said that this was just the beginning. What did he mean? She stood there for a long time. After her mood gradually calmed down, she finally regained some rationality. Now that she was covered in injuries and her face and body were covered in blood, she definitely could not enter the palace. She subconsciously wanted to go home. But now that she was like this, if her brother found out, he would probably reprimand her again. Jiang Yuji thought about it and squatted down. She stayed in this secluded alley until the sky darkened. Then she began to walk home. Jiang residence. In the room, Jiang Yuqing sat cross-legged on the bed. His shoulders were slightly drooped, and his hands were on his knees with his palms facing up. A fist-sized blood ball was floating in front of him. His eyes were fixed on the ball of blood as he circulated the origin power around his body. It transformed into thin threads that extended toward the ball of blood. The blood ball shook, and the liquid inside began to slowly flow along the thin lines into Jiang Yuqing's body. The aura on his body began to grow stronger rapidly. At the same time, his skin also rapidly turned red. There seemed to be something surging under his skin, which looked very strange. His face also became ferocious, as if he was enduring great pain. After an unknown period of time, the liquid in the blood ball finally entered Jiang Yuqing's body. He suddenly raised his head. Something quickly surged down from the skin on his neck, and finally disappeared into his clothes. Ugh! A strange and painful groan came from his throat. After a while, the blood on his face gradually faded, and he slowly opened his eyes. And at this time, the aura on his body had actually returned to the middle of the 8th level. He lowered his head and looked at his hands. He could feel the aura in his body becoming stronger again. He let out a long sigh. It's finally over. This process was very painful, and it also damaged his body to a certain extent. However, in order to prevent Yuchi Song from discovering his abnormality, he could only do this. However, this thing could only last for a limited amount of time. He had to get rid of the Yuchi Song as soon as possible. After all, he didn't want to delay his true cultivation because of a Yuchi Song. At the sect meeting, perhaps he would be able to. He stood up and walked out the door. The sky had already darkened, and the moon hung high in the sky. Sun Qi was guarding the door. "Young master," Jiang Yuqing asked. "How long has it been?" Sun Qi said, 2 days and 2 nights. "Did anyone come by during this period? You said earlier that you wanted to cultivate, so no one came to disturb you these 2 days. As Sun Qi spoke, he glanced at him and said, "Everything is normal. Everything else is normal." Jiang Yuqing heaved a sigh of relief. As long as Shangguan Wan and Yuchi Song don't fight, there's basically nothing to worry about. His expression changed slightly, and he suddenly remembered that he had locked Jiang Yuji up for a few days. Fourth Missy didn't come either? No. Xiahou Tingon came every day, but Fourth Missy didn't come out to see him. Every time, he would leave after sitting for a while. Jiang Yuqing thought to himself that it was indeed so. Previously, I sent the Xiahou family a message saying that the 2 families' marriage discussions were temporarily suspended. The Xiahou family naturally couldn't sit still. However, Xiahou Tingon learned his lesson this time. It must have been that sly old fox Xiahou Rong, who gave him some pointers. Jiang Yuqing had long expected them to be like this, so he wasn't shocked at all. However, Jiang Yuji really didn't come out, which surprised him. It seems like she's really reflecting, but it could also be that her heart was hurt by my slap. A few days had passed, and the anger in Jiang Yuqing's heart had long dissipated. Thinking of the scene back then, he also felt that he had gone overboard. I doted on Jiang Yuji since she was young. In the past, I didn't even say anything harsh to her, but now, I personally slapped her. She was his biological sister after all. So Jiang Yuqing couldn't help but feel heartache. I'll go and see her. Jiang Yuqing kept thinking about how to compensate Jiang Yuji the entire way. After this incident, she should have learned her lesson. In the future, as long as she's smarter and knows what to do and what not to do, it's fine. If she really likes Xiahou Tingan, it's not like she can't continue. He walked to the door and directly asked, "How are you?" Fourth Missy? When the two servants standing at the door saw Jiang Yuqing, they were instantly shocked. "Greetings, eldest young master." Even though it was already late, Jiang Yuqing could still clearly see the fear that flashed across their faces. He slightly knitted his brows and glanced at the tightly shut door. "Where's she? She heard that I'm coming, but she didn't come out to welcome me?" The two servants hurriedly said, "Eldest young master, eldest young master. Fourth Missy isn't feeling well today, so she's already asleep. Why, you can come back tomorrow, right?" Sun Chi went forward and hollered, "How dare you? When is it your turn to order eldest young master around?" The two servants were shocked as they hurriedly knelt down and begged for mercy. A trace of suspicion surfaced in Jiang Yuqing's heart. It's not time for her to sleep yet. Why is she asleep? She's not feeling well. What exactly is going on? The two servants stuttered and couldn't even speak properly. Jiang Yuqing had already guessed something and coldly said, "Open the door. Open the door immediately." The two servants were shocked and didn't dare to move. Jiang Yuqing impatiently went forward, kicked the door open, and walked in. He searched the room, but didn't see Jiang Yuji's figure. His face quickly darkened. Where did Fourth Missy go? The two servants knelt on the ground and trembled. Seeing that the matter had been exposed, and that eldest young master was so angry, they could only explain the cause and effect of the matter. After listening, Jiang Yuqing's aura seemed to freeze. He thought that she would be more restrained in the future after learning her lesson this time. He didn't expect that she still didn't repent. What could she do outside, now that she was like this, if she did anything stupid again? At this moment, the sound of hurried footsteps suddenly came from outside. Jiang Yuqing got up and walked outside. The door suddenly opened. When he saw the familiar figure in the courtyard, he sneered. "You still know to come back?" Jiang Yuji's footsteps suddenly froze. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 609. The courtyard fell into dead silence. Jiang Yuji was shocked and flustered. Why did brother suddenly come? Didn't he say that he had something to do these few days? How long has he been waiting here? Most importantly, did he know what had happened to her today? In an instant, many thoughts flashed through Jiang Yuji's mind. She didn't know how to deal with it. "Speak!" Jiang Yuqing shouted impatiently. "Where did you go today?" Jiang Yuji heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that he still didn't know. She stood in the middle of the courtyard, trying her best to hide her figure and face in the dark night. As long as brother didn't see her like this, there was still hope to fool him. I went to the 100 Herbs building today," she stammered. Jiang Yuqing frowned. "What were you doing there?" "I just wanted to buy some medicinal herbs. I didn't manage to buy the Xitagarba coral I liked last time. I wanted to see if there was anything else I liked," Jiang Yuji said timidly. Hearing this, Jiang Yuqing's anger subsided a little. "What do you want? Just say it. But you really shouldn't sneak out like this. I'll let you off this time. There won't be a next time," Jiang Yuji hurriedly said. "Thank you, brother." Jiang Yuqing looked at her and narrowed his eyes. "Why are you standing so far away? Come forward and talk." Jiang Yuji didn't move. Jiang Yuqing wanted to reprimand her, but seeing Jiang Yuji's timid and fearful appearance, he thought that she was still brooding over the slap from before. He walked over to Jiang Yuji and said in a slow voice, "Don't worry. Don't worry in the future. I won't hit you again. As long as you listen to me." Jiang Yuji suddenly took a step back. Jiang Yuqing finally realized that something was wrong. He frowned and quickly walked forward. "Listen." A face full of bruises appeared in front of him. Jiang Yuqing was shocked. What's wrong with you? Who beat you up like this?" Seeing that she couldn't hide it any longer, Jiang Yuji could only tell Jiang Yuqing about how the masked man had blocked her in the alley and beaten her up. However, she left out the part where she had a dispute with Yu Ling in the 100 Herbs building. She only said that she had strolled around the 100 Herbs building and was beaten up as soon as she came out. Jiang Yuqing's face was so gloomy that it seemed like water could drip from it. His eyes were burning with anger. This was his, Jiang Yuqing's younger sister, who in Shilling City didn't know about it. It wasn't a problem for him to teach her a lesson himself, but if others were to bully her, then he would definitely not allow it. What's more, the other party had covered his face. Obviously, he didn't want to reveal his identity. This meant that he had come prepared. How big was that person? Did he talk to you? Do you feel any familiarity with him? Jiang Yuji shook her head as tears fell from her eyes. That person deliberately changed his tone. I can't recognize him at all. Moreover, looking at that figure, I don't think I've seen him before. She really didn't know that person. Jiang Yuqing stared at her for a while. Why would someone target you out of the blue? What exactly did you do when you went out today? Jiang Yuji looked away guiltily and cried even more fiercely. What else can I do? I just came out for a walk, and I was bullied just like that. Moreover, that person even said that this was just the beginning. Brother, I'm so scared. Seeing her like this, Jiang Yuqing felt pity in his heart and suppressed the trace of suspicion in his heart. Hearing the second half of her sentence, the anger in his heart burned even more. Who exactly was this person? How could he be so arrogant? He actually dared to lay his hands on Jiang Yuqing's younger sister in West Hill. Moreover, he actually dared to threaten her like this. Yuji, go back and rest well. I will investigate this matter myself. When I find out who this person is, I will definitely not let him off easily. He paused for a moment, glanced at Jiang Yuji's miserable face, and said in a deep voice, Don't go out during this period of time. Jiang Yuji wanted to cover her face, but the moment she touched it, it would be incomparably painful. She could only endure the embarrassment and grievance and nod. After comforting Jiang Yuji, Jiang Yuqing left. As soon as he left the courtyard, he said, Sun Qi, go and investigate immediately what happened today. Yes. Remember, focus on investigating the 100 Herbs building. Yes, eldest young master. Night. At the top of Yinlin Peak. Scratch. Scratch. The sound of a sword being sharpened was especially clear in the quiet night. Chu Luyue was sitting cross-legged on the star stone, sharpening the cloud sky copper sword. After a few days, her movements had clearly become much more proficient, and she was even more clear about how to exert strength. This way, her efficiency had increased by a lot. More importantly, her physical strength had indeed become much stronger. On the first day, she had to rest almost every hour. On the second day, her arms and shoulders were very sore. But now, she basically only stopped for a while every 2 hours, and the pain on her body had dissipated by a lot. This made her feel much more at ease, and she sharpened the sword in her hand even more patiently. In the night sky, the moonlight was bright. The cold moonlight cast a huge shadow on the ground. That was the shadow of the star stone. Above the shadow, there was a slender figure who was repeating the same action over and over again. A gentle breeze blew, and Chu Luyue's long hair fluttered slightly. Suddenly a spark flew. Chu Luyue was stunned. That spark just now was she pursed her lips, held her breath and focused. She pressed her hands tightly on the sword and sharpened it on the star stone again. Whoosh! The moment the sword rubbed against the star stone, an extremely bright spark flashed again. Haha! Little girl, congratulations to you. You finally sharpened the core. Taizu's voice suddenly sounded. Chu Luyue looked at the cloud sky copper sword in her hand and muttered softly. Core. That's right. Now a part of the core has already been exposed. As long as you sharpen the rest, you can officially trigger Tianlei to forge this sword. Taizu's voice could not conceal his joy. I originally thought that you would need another 2 days to do it, but I didn't expect it to be so smooth. Chu Luyue was very intelligent, and she was also very persistent. She had practically not slept or rested for the past few days. It was no wonder that she had sharpened the core in advance. Hearing Taizu's voice, Chu Luyue also seemed to be infected, and she was faintly excited. Although this could not be considered as a true success in sharpening, it was still a good start, and it also gave birth to some expectations in her heart. She wondered what kind of scene it would be when she truly reforged this sword. She held the cloud sky copper sword in front of her eyes and looked at it carefully for a while. From the tip of the sword to the upper body, there was a clear sparrow blue color. Especially at the tip of the sword, the color was even more dense and pure, and it was faintly flickering with a faint silver light. Chu Luiyue suddenly had a strong premonition in her heart. She would definitely successfully forge a top-notch treasure sword. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 610. At this moment, she suddenly felt a strange movement in her dantian. Chu Luiyue looked over and realized that the movement was coming from the Black Pyramid. However, it only lasted for a while before quickly dissipating as if nothing had happened. That's strange, she frowned. This thing had always been quiet. Except for the time when it caused a ruckus in the Tianling God realm, it had been very obedient. That movement just now was definitely not her imagination. She suddenly thought of something and looked up at her surroundings. There was nothing on the flattened mountain top. The mountain breeze blew, and the leaves rustled. Apart from that, there was nothing else. She looked around for a while, and after confirming that everything was normal, she retracted her gaze. Could it be that I'm really overthinking? She thought that the boss of the Precious Treasure Pavilion had come just now. Otherwise, she really didn't know how to explain this movement. However, the forest was silent. Chu Luiyue thought for a while, put this matter aside, and started sharpening her sword again. Every time she sharpened it, a spark would burst out from it. The bright light shone on her face, and her eyes shone brightly. A gentle breeze blew past. The next day, Chu Luiyue went down the mountain to 100 Herbs Building to get herbs. Chang Wanzhou's body recovered faster than she expected, and the consumption of herbs was self-evident. The ones she bought previously could only last for a short period of time. Therefore, she came to 100 Herbs Building today to discuss with them about getting more. As soon as she reached the entrance of 100 Herbs Building, a servant immediately greeted her warmly. "Miss Chu, you're finally here. Please come in." Chu Luiyue raised her eyebrows. Why did these people's attitudes towards her seem to be more eager than before? "I'm just here to get some herbs. Why does it seem like something big has happened? Even if I'm a black gold card VIP now, this seems a little too much." The servant had already bowed and invited her in. At the same time, he said, "General Manager Yu happens to be upstairs. Would you like to meet him?" Chu Luiyue smiled and shook her head. "No need. I'm just here to get the herbs I ordered. General Manager Yu is a busy man, so I won't waste his time." After buying all the things in the Yuchi song, she came to the 100 Herbs Building to pick some common herbs. She didn't spend much on other things. Although this wasn't a small expense, it was just a drop in the ocean for Chu Luiyue. As soon as he finished speaking, he heard a familiar voice coming from the stairs. "I'm more than happy to have Miss Chu here. How could I possibly dislike Miss Chu for wasting my time?" Yuling walked down the stairs with a smile. God knows that he didn't sleep well last night. He came here early in the morning just to wait for Chu Luiyue. Now that he had finally come, how could he leave just like that? "The herbs you requested have already been prepared. I'll bring them to you in a moment." As Yuling spoke, his gaze inadvertently swept over Chu Luiyue's hand. That Qiankuan ring seemed to belong to Master. Yuling's eyes twitched. Last time, the universe ring on Chu Luiyue's hand was Jianfengqi's. Now it was Master's in the blink of an eye. Speaking of which, he was the one who said it. But even he didn't expect that Master would immediately send Yin Qing to deliver the universe ring in person after the news was sent back. Fortunately, he had realized Chu Luiyue's identity yesterday. Now when he saw the ring on her hand, he could still maintain a calm face. Otherwise, he was afraid that he couldn't control his expression. Chu Luiyue looked at him strangely and asked with a smile, "I heard that General Manager Yu has always been elusive. But recently, it seems that you often appear here." She had been here 3 times, and she had met him twice. Yuling laughed. "Miss Chu, after all, I'm the manager of the 100 Herbs Building. Where else can I be?" He glanced behind Chu Luiyue and asked curiously, "Why are you here? Why did Miss Chu come here alone today? Where's the young man from before?" Chu Luiyue raised her eyebrows. "Wanzhou? He's still cultivating. So I came here myself. Why, General Manager, you seems to be quite curious about Wanzhou. Yuling immediately waved his hand and laughed. No, Miss Chu, please don't misunderstand. It's just that you came here together before. But today you came here alone. I'm a little curious. Chu Luiyue smiled slightly and didn't continue to say anything. Yuling asked tentatively. Then the medicinal materials you came here to take today are all prepared for him? Chu Luiyue gave him a meaningful look. Yuling seemed to be particularly curious about her. Oh no, about Chang Wanzhou today, she said ambiguously. Partly. Yuling was secretly anxious. He originally wanted to take the chance to get some information from Chu Luiyue, but she was watertight, and he could not get anything out of her. He knew that if he continued to ask like this, Chu Luiyue would definitely be suspicious, so he immediately changed the topic. He glanced at her hand, and a trace of surprise appeared on his face. He seemed to ask inadvertently, Miss Chu's interspatial ring looks extraordinary. Chu Luiyue lowered her eyes and glanced at it. It was indeed quite eye-catching to wear this interspatial ring. Anyone with some eyesight could basically see that this thing was extraordinary. However, she still chose to wear it. Hearing Yuling's question, she smiled slightly and said, Someone gave it to me. Yuling asked with a smile. The person who can give this thing to you must be quite noble, and he should have a close relationship with Miss Chu, right? Chu Luiyue rubbed the interspatial ring on her hand. It was cold to the touch, smooth and delicate. It's my. Halfway through her words, she suddenly stopped. Yuling was obviously inquiring about her. Could it be that he had heard something, or he had other intentions? Chu Luiyue glanced at him calmly. Recalling his abnormality today, she really felt uneasy. A sentence lingered between her lips for a moment, but she swallowed it back. She smiled at Yuling. It's a gift from a friend of mine. At the same time, in a room on the third floor, Rongxiu slowly let go of his hand. A teacup shattered silently, and spiderweb-like cracks spread all over it. However, for some reason, the teacup didn't collapse, and it still maintained its previous intact appearance. The tea inside slowly flowed out of the cracks, and soon spread on the table, forming a pool of irregular water stains. Yan Qing, who was standing next to him, felt a chill all over her body. She couldn't wait to disappear from here immediately. After a moment, Rongxiu's thin lips curled up slightly, with a faint smile. Friend. Yan Qing closed her eyes in despair. It's over. Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from love. Chapter 611. Not only did he have Chang Wanzhou to serve him, but now he didn't even have the title of master's fiancé. Yan Qing lowered his head, hoping that his master would treat him as an invisible person. He didn't hear anything. Yan Qing. Rongxiu opened his mouth, his tone cold. Yan Qing hurriedly replied, Yes, master. How long has I been away from the capital? Master, it's been 27 days. Rongxiu frowned slightly. I left the capital on the same day as you were, so it should be 27 days since we last met. His tone was still calm, as if he was just talking about an ordinary thing. However, Yan Qing felt that his body was getting colder and colder. He quickly looked up and saw that the puddle of water on the table had silently frozen into ice. He had to bite the bullet and said, Yes. Downstairs. Yuling was also stunned when he heard this. Friend. Didn't master say that this was madam? Why did they become friends with Chu Luiyue? He struggled to ask. They shouldn't be ordinary friends, right? Such a precious thing. What's wrong with General Manager you today? Why are you suddenly so interested in my affairs? Chu Luiyue interrupted him with a smile. Yuling glanced at her vigilant expression and realized that she seemed to have misunderstood. He really didn't mean anything else. He just wanted to ask a few more questions on behalf of his master. Yuling still wanted to defend himself, but he was afraid that he would make things worse in this situation. He could only force a smile and said, Miss Chu, please don't misunderstand. I just asked casually. At this moment, the servant brought the prepared herbs over. Chu Luiyue didn't continue to pursue the matter. She took the things and put them into the universe ring. By the way, there's one more thing that I need General Manager Yu's help with today. The herbs that I ordered before are not enough recently, so I want to double the amount on the basis of first. I wonder if General Manager Yu. Yes, that's not a problem at all. Yuling did not say anything and immediately agreed. Seeing that he had achieved his goal, Chu Luiyue did not stay any longer and quickly left. Yuling only turned around and went upstairs after her figure had completely disappeared from his sight. Just as he walked to the door of the room, before he even walked in, he already felt an unusually cold aura. Yuling raised his eyes and quickly exchanged a look with Yanqing. There was some sympathy in Yanqing's eyes. Of all things to talk about with Chu Luiyue, he just had to talk about the interspatial ring. Not only did he want to chat, he even wanted to ask who had sent it. Now this was great. He asked such a question. Yuling became even more nervous. Sure enough, the conversation just now had been heard by the master, but he didn't expect Chu Luiyue to say that. Wasn't this shooting himself in the foot? Master, Yuling said in a trembling voice. His back was already drenched in cold sweat. Rongxiu asked softly. Did she ask for more medicinal materials just now? Yuling said hurriedly. Yes. Miss Luyu said that she wanted twice as much as before. Do the 100 Herbs building have so many medicinal materials? Well, we do have them for now. But according to the amount that Madam wants, we have to find someone to supply them as soon as possible. In fact, most of the medicinal materials were not very expensive and were very common, but a few of them were very valuable and rare. Even if the 100 Herbs building wanted to take out so many medicinal materials continuously, it was actually not that easy. But don't worry, we dare not slack off on Madam's request. We must fulfill it. Yuling said solemnly. Rongxiu's smile deepened. Oh. Yanqing closed his eyes again. He didn't realize it before. But now he suddenly realized that Yuling was really not very smart in this regard. Yuling finally realized that something was wrong. And then an idea flashed in his mind. A large part of those medicinal materials were prepared for Chang Wanzhou. Now that she had increased the amount of medicinal materials, it meant that not only was she helping Chang Wanzhou, but she was also doing more than before. Compared to the situation where his master didn't even have a proper title, Yuling swallowed hard. He seemed to have taken a few more steps on the road to death. Rongxiu got up and walked outside. Chu Luiyue walked out of the 100 Herbs building, thinking as she walked. She had a good impression of Yuling before, but today was really a little strange. Ordinary people wouldn't ask those questions. As the manager of the 100 Herbs building, how could Yuling not know that this was inappropriate? But he still asked. If she hadn't stopped in time, he seemed to have wanted to ask more. I don't know what he's planning to do. Thinking about it, Chu Luiyue came to the place where she sent the letter. She walked in and saw the person who she had asked to help deliver the letter at a glance. She was overjoyed. Perhaps there was a reply. Therefore, she quickened her pace and walked up to the man. She asked, "What's wrong?" "Hello. May I know if there is a reply to the message sent to Country Yaochen?" The man stopped what he was doing and looked at Chu Luiyue. The moment their gazes met, the smile on Chu Luiyue's face froze. This gaze. This is. The man seemed to have realized what she was thinking and said calmly, "I just returned. I haven't tidied up the things yet. Please wait at the side." Chu Luiyue came back to her senses and nodded. Okay. With that, she walked to the side. The man skillfully sorted the letters in his hand and handed them to different people. A man laughed loudly. "Qinqi, after you came back this time, your efficiency seems to have improved a lot." The man smiled and didn't say anything. The man who spoke seemed to be used to this. He only chuckled and looked away. The others were also doing their own things. The man called Qinqi had been working silently. After about half an hour, he finally walked towards Chu Luiyue with a letter in his hand. "This is the reply letter." Chu Luiyue took a look. Mu Hongyu's name was written on the envelope. It should be a letter from Pingjiang King and his wife to Mu Hongyu. She looked up at Qinqi. "Thank you." Mobile users, please browse and read. A better reading experience comes from Love Network. Chapter 6:12. Qin said, "Miss Chu, you're too polite." Chu Luwei kept the letter and turned to leave. After taking 2 steps, she suddenly thought of something and turned back to look at Qin. "Oh right, I have some things that I want to send back after packing, but I heard that some things can't pass through heaven's canopy. Can you go back with me and help me check?" Qin looked at the man who spoke earlier. That man waved his hand coolly. "Anyway, you've already finished your work for today. Go with Miss Chu." Now, Chu Luiyue was the most popular person in Xiling, and it was rumored that she was extraordinarily rich. Who didn't want to have a relationship with her? Who knows, he might even be rewarded more than the others. Qin thanked him and walked to Chu Luiyue's side. "Miss Chu, please." The two of them were silent along the way. When they reached the house, Chu Luiyue invited them to the front hall. After confirming that the surroundings were safe, Chu Luiyue turned around and looked at Qin. She quickly walked to him and lowered her voice. "Qi Han." Qin's eyes moved slightly as he nodded slightly. "Your Highness." It was indeed him. Chu Luiyue was shocked. "Why are you here?" When she first saw Qin, she recognized that this person was not the one from before. After their eyes met, she was sure that he was not anyone else but Qi Han, who should still be in Yao Chun. Qi Han said, "You're alone in Xiling. I was really worried. After receiving your letter, I replaced Qin and returned." Chu Luiyue frowned slightly. You're taking too much of a risk." Qi Han immediately said, "Your Highness, please rest assured." "Don't worry, Your Highness. This subordinate came here after making complete preparations. They definitely won't notice anything amiss." The reaction of the man who praised him today was enough to explain everything. "I know you're very good at this, so there won't be any problems. I'm worried about something else," Chu Luiyue said and rubbed her brows. "Didn't you say that Jiang Yuqing had ordered to capture you at all costs? If they find out, the aura of the 13 Yu guards was special. Anyone who was familiar with them could easily recognize them. It was too dangerous for Qi Han to appear so openly in Xiling under Jiang Yuqing's nose." "Your Highness, before I came, I hid my aura. If I stood in front of him, he might not be able to detect me." Qi Han's voice was as calm as usual, but he was confident. Chu Luiyue was dazed. She then realized that Qi Han's body had indeed changed. This change was very subtle, but he had completely got rid of his aura. If she had not been so familiar with Qi Han's eyes, she might not have been able to recognize him so quickly. How did you do it?" Chu Luiyue sized him up and asked in shock. Every cultivator would have a different aura because of the martial arts they cultivated. Jiang Yuqing dared to order a full-scale capture of them and forced them out of heaven's canopy because of this. Previously, Chu Luiyue didn't let Qi Han accompany her to Xiling because she was worried about this problem. She didn't expect that. He seemed to be a completely different person now. Qi Han said, "Actually, little Hachi has been studying how to solve this problem for more than a year. Some time ago, he said that he came up with a new prescription that might work. This subordinate then went to look for him to find a medicinal pill, and as a result, it really worked. Everyone in the 13 Yu guards was good at different things. For little 8 to be able to do this, it wasn't strange if he thought about it carefully." Chu Luiyue pondered for a moment and asked, "Are you sure this thing will always work?" Qi Han nodded and said, "Little Hachi thought I was just giving it a try. He doesn't know that I've already found you and come to Xiling. If he knew, he would definitely come over immediately." "You did well. Now is indeed not a good time to tell them." Chu Luiyue crossed his arms and pondered for a long time before saying, "Since you're already here, you might as well stay. It's easier to do things with Qin's identity." The 7 colts all agreed. Chu Luiyue's heart calmed down a little as she sat down. He asked casually, "How's the situation in country Yao Chun?" Qi Han's expression turned solemn. "Your Highness, everything is fine in the imperial capital. However, Taiyan Academy was ambushed half a month ago and suffered heavy casualties. Now many students have been dismissed, and have gone to other academies. Chu Luiyue was really shocked this time. He suddenly looked up at Qi Han. How did this happen? Taiyan Academy was the top academy in country Xingluo. No one dared to offend it. How did it get ambushed and become like this overnight? Qi Han shook his head. Country Xingluo has kept this matter under wraps. There's almost no news. They've been investigating the mastermind, but it seems like they haven't found any useful clues. Chu Luiyue suddenly thought of something and asked, How's the investigation on Yang Jianqing and Heng Jingchua? Qi Han shook his head. After such a thing happened, everyone is in danger. The investigation has been forced to stop. Chu Luiyue's heart sank. Indeed, someone wanted to stop the investigation. However, she was in Xiling now, so she couldn't find out more. After that, she asked a few more questions and let Qi Han go back. If he stayed here for too long, it would inevitably attract attention. After sending Qi Han back, Chu Luiyue returned to the Chongshu Pavilion. However, as soon as he reached the top of the mountain, he saw Yi Ranran running over. Her eyes were bright and she said excitedly, Luyu, you have a friend looking for you. Chu Luiyue was stunned. Friend? She didn't have many friends in Xiling. Who could be looking for her? Chu Luiyue asked, Who is it? Jian Fengqi? Yi Ranran shook his head vigorously. No. We've never seen him before. He's been here for a while. He's waiting for you. Chu Luiyue walked forward in confusion. Digression. Massive updates, another wave at noon. Guess how many more there are today? Finally, I waved my hand and beckoned for monthly votes. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 613. Chu Luiyue returned to her residence and met many senior brothers and sisters on the way. Everyone looked at her strangely, as if they were curious and excited at the same time. Little junior sister, you're back. Little junior sister, someone is looking for you. Seeing everyone's reaction, Chu Luiyue raised her eyebrows slightly. This scene was very similar to when Yin Qing came last time. If it wasn't for the fact that everyone was busy preparing for the great sect meeting, it would be even more enthusiastic than the last time. Chu Luiyue greeted them one by one and walked to her door under everyone's burning gazes. The door was open. She walked in. There were 3 men in the room. Yin Qing, who she had just met a few days ago, was standing respectfully with his hands by his side. Chang Wanzhou stood in the middle of the room with his back straight. At this moment, he was staring coldly at the man standing beside the bookshelf. The atmosphere was cold. Chu Luiyue looked over. It was a tall and slender figure. His clothes were whiter than snow, and his sleeves fluttered in the wind. Although it was only his back view, she could still feel the cold and noble aura around him. Chu Luiyue's heart skipped a beat. Her eyes widened slightly, and her heart started to beat rapidly. Rongxiu? Hearing the voice, Rongxiu turned around and his thin scarlet lips curled up slightly. You're... There was a faint and gentle smile on his jade-like face. His pair of phoenix eyes were as deep as the starry night. They were enshrouded in a faint light that made one unconsciously sink into them. It's really him. Chu Luiyue was surprised and happy. She almost couldn't believe her eyes. Why are you here? Didn't he return to Mingyue Tianshan? In the blink of an eye, he actually appeared in front of her. So the friend that Yi Ranran mentioned just now was him? No wonder the senior brothers and sisters revealed such gossipy and curious expressions. Such a monstrous figure would become the focus of everyone's attention no matter where he was. Rongxiu put down the book in his hand and smiled faintly. I've been busy with something recently and happened to pass by here, so I thought I'd come and see you. Confusion flashed across Chu Luiyue's heart. What was Rongxiu busy with that he would pass by the West Hill? However, this thought only flashed through his mind for a moment, before it was quickly replaced by the joy of reunion. The two of them had only been apart for less than a month, but she felt like a long time had passed. The longing that had been suppressed in the deepest part of his heart seemed to have been torn open and surged out. Rongxiu saw that there seemed to be a twinkle in her eyes. His heart moved, and he walked towards Chu Luiyue. He stood still in front of Chu Luiyue, looked down and scrutinized her face. Then, He wrapped his arm around her slender waist and pulled her into his arms. Chang Wanzhou's face turned cold. Just as he was about to step forward, he sensed a dangerous gaze from the side. He looked up. Yanqing raised her eyebrows slightly and looked at him with undisguised warning in her eyes. What a joke! His master had chased him all the way to the West Hill. It was not easy for him to see the person he cared about the most. Who would dare to stop him at this time? Master, I'll take my leave. Yanqing bowed respectfully and then walked out. When she passed by Chang Wanzhou, she paused and raised her chin. Chang Wanzhou, right? I heard that you have good strength. Why don't we go out and have a competition? Chang Wanzhou glanced at him coldly, but he did not move. The man in white said that he was Chu Liyue's friend. However, when he saw Yanqing, Chang Wanzhou realized that this man should be the one who gave him the interspatial ring. Obviously, he had a special relationship with Chu Liyue. Yanqing closed her eyes. Why were the children nowadays so insensible? Without saying anything, she directly clamped Chang Wanzhou's arm and dragged him out. Chang Wanzhou immediately wanted to resist, but he found that he could not get rid of Yanqing's hand at all. He was no match for Yanqing at all. In this way, Yanqing directly took him out, leaving him no time to refute. Before leaving, Yanqing considerately closed the door. Chu Liyue put her arms around Rongxiu's thin waist and pressed her face against his chest. She could clearly hear the rhythm of his heartbeat. The sound seemed to be transmitted from her eardrums to her heart. Again and again, the familiar cold fragrance lingered at the tip of her nose. The place where they hugged was warm and ironed. Somewhere in the bottom of her heart seemed to be filled in an instant. It was not until she heard the sound of the door closing that she raised her head and took a look. Why does Yanqing suddenly want to compete with Xiaozhou? Rongxiu's long eyelashes moved slightly. Xiaozhou. Chu Liyue raised her head and looked at him. Yes, the child with short blonde hair just now, Chang Wanzhou. Rongxiu hugged her tighter, and their bodies were tightly pressed against each other. He leaned close to her ear as if he was bewitching her. Don't think about unrelated people. Now only me. Immediately, he lowered his head, and his crimson lips fell between Chu Liyue's eyebrows. The slightly cold temperature made Chu Liyue's body tremble slightly. Then he gradually moved down, and his kisses covered the sky and the earth. Her eyebrows, the corners of her eyes, the tip of her nose, her cheeks, his movements were very light, but they were filled with forbearance and a strong longing for her. He loved and cherished her to the extreme, as if he was treating the most precious existence in the world. Wherever it passed, it seemed to roll up sparks, scorching and scalding. Finally, he kissed her lips. Her legs were weak, so she had to hold him tighter. Her fingers, which were grabbing his clothes, curled slightly and rubbed several creases on his clothes. Warm breaths intertwined, and she was dizzy as if she had lost her direction. Chu Liyue let out a soft moan between her lips and teeth. It was an extremely unpleasant sound of tenderness and softness. Rongxiu's heart seemed to be burned by something, and then he finally let her go. He held her waist with one hand and gently stroked her long hair with the other. Chu Liyue looked up at him. Her eyes seemed to be full of autumn water, and her cheeks were flushed. Rongxiu's fingertips unconsciously rubbed her waist, and then he kissed her eyes. His voice was low and hoarse, like an order, but also like a desire. Don't look at me like that. In front of her, the self-control that he was so proud of crumbled bit by bit. Chapter 614. Chu Liyue blinked. Seeing the bottomless abyss in his eyes, she tactfully stopped teasing him. Rongxiu exhaled softly. He missed her when he couldn't see her, but when he saw her, his longing didn't ease at all. Instead, it became even stronger. Even if she was right in front of him, he still missed her. He sat down and pulled Chu Liyue into his arms. He hugged her from behind and gently rested his chin on her shoulder. Chu Liyue looked at him sideways. After not seeing him for a while, he seemed to have lost some weight. What has he been busy with recently? Rongxiu, how long do you plan to stay in West Hill this time? Chu Liyue played with his slender and fair hand and asked. Rongxiu thought for a moment. His voice was still a little lazy and hoarse. Undecided. Undecided? Chu Luiyue was a little puzzled. Just as she was about to continue asking, Rong Xiu took the initiative to speak. That Chang Wanzhou. I haven't seen him before. It seems that he thinks highly of you. Chu Luiyue asked. Why do you say that? Rong Xiu raised his sword-like eyebrows slightly. When he heard that I was here to look for you, he acted as if he was facing a great enemy, from the beginning until you came back. If it weren't for Yin Qing just now, he would have continued to stay. Chu Luiyue couldn't help but laugh. Although a certain someone looked calm and collected, but it was so sour. He's my follower now, so naturally, he's especially concerned about my affairs. That child is stubborn. You don't have to take it to heart. Chu Luiyue said and kissed the corner of his lips. He knew you before, so of course he was very wary of you. But from now on, he knows your identity, so naturally, he won't be like that anymore. Rong Xiu looked up with a faint smile. Oh, who am I? Chu Luiyue looked at his expression, and suddenly felt a little guilty. Oh, it's your fiancé. Rong Xiu's smile deepened. Really? But after I came to West Hill, I seem to have heard some rumors. Chu Luiyue thought to himself that this was indeed the case. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You said it yourself, it's all just rumors. I don't even know how the outside world got into such a state. One moment it was Jian Fengqi, the next it was Mu Qinghe. After she heard it, she actually didn't take it to heart at all, because it was too ridiculous. However, from the looks of it, a certain someone seemed to mind. She turned around and teased with a smile. If you don't like it, I'll clarify it later. Rong Xiu raised his eyebrows and glanced at her. The corners of his eyes and the tips of his brows seemed to carry a bit of undisciplined nobility. No need. Chu Luiyue was surprised. Rong Xiu was clearly very concerned about this matter. It wouldn't take much effort for her to clarify it. Why did he say that there was no need? Rong Xiu paused and his thin lips curled slightly. I have my own plans. He was indeed concerned about this matter, but he was also very clear about her current situation in West Hill. On the surface, she was famous and had limitless prospects. But in reality, she had also attracted a lot of jealousy and hatred. There were countless pairs of eyes staring at her in the dark now. The slightest movement might attract a wave of unnecessary trouble. Moreover, her status in West Hill now was actually not high. If she were to do such a thing, it would instead seem like she was taking the initiative to scam him. He couldn't bear to do it no matter what. So it was better for him to do these things. Chu Luiyue didn't know what he was thinking, but seeing his lazy expression, she didn't continue to dwell on this matter. She then talked about some things that happened after she came to West Hill. Rong Xiu listened patiently and gently. In fact, he already knew about these things. But now that he heard her say it personally, it was a completely different feeling. It was as if every word suddenly had warmth and power, leaving deep and shallow marks in his heart. He listened patiently, and occasionally asked a few questions. One of them was talking with great interest, while the other was listening with great interest. For a moment it was quite interesting. After a long time, after she finished talking about these things, Chu Luiyue suddenly thought of something and asked, I've always been talking about my matters. Why don't you talk about yours? Is there anything interesting? Rong Xiu smiled faintly and said, My side is as usual. Without you there's nothing interesting. It's fine not to talk about it. Chu Luiyue's chest warmed. Did he mean, only things related to her were interesting to him? This person. Oh, there's one thing that's a little difficult. Rong Xiu frowned slightly and seemed to be in a difficult position. What is it? I came to West Hill in a hurry this time, and haven't found a suitable place to stay. Because I don't know how long I'll have to stay here. It's a little troublesome. Rong Xiu rubbed his eyebrows and seemed to be worried about it. Chu Luiyue almost didn't think and immediately said, Then you can live in my house. The one I told you about before. The one that the pavilion master gave me? Although it's not big, it's definitely enough for you to live in. It's just that the house is relatively simple. I don't know if you're used to living there. Rong Xiu's lips curled into a loving smile. Of course I'm used to living in your place. Then thank you in advance you are. Outside the courtyard, Yin Qing and Chang Wanzhou stood facing each other. Chang Wanzhou's clothes were torn, and his hair was very messy. His breathing was heavy, and it was obvious that he had just experienced a difficult battle. On the other hand, Yanqing's face wasn't red, and he wasn't out of breath. He was calm and composed. Boy, you're talented, but now, you're still a little inexperienced. Yanqing crossed his arms and looked down at him condescendingly. Chang Wanzhou was silent for a moment before he said, "One day I'll beat you." Yanqing didn't get angry at being provoked. Instead, he nodded with interest. That depends on whether you have the strength and luck. After the battle, even if he didn't like Chang Wanzhou before, he had to admit that this young man did indeed have top talent. As long as he was trained well, he would definitely become a strong person in the future. Such a person indeed has the right to be Ms. Liu Yue's right-hand man if he follows her. But, Master, at this moment the door suddenly opened. Chu Luyue and Rong Xiu walked out. Yanqing and Chang Wanzhou immediately looked over. Master, Miss Liu Yu. Yanqing bowed respectfully. Chang Wanzhou's eyes swept over the two of them, and finally fell on their clasped hands. Chu Luyue waved at Chang Wanzhou. Little Zhou, come here. Chang Wanzhou walked to her obediently. Chu Luyue coughed. Rong Xiu is my fiancé. You don't have to be so wary of him in the future. If he comes again in the future, just invite him in. Chang Wanzhou didn't say anything. Little Zhou. Chu Luyue raised her voice. Chang Wanzhou finally straightened his neck and said coldly, Got it. Chu Luyue breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. In fact, she also knew that Chang Wanzhou was doing it for her own good. However, he was unsociable and unruly, so it was inevitable that some misunderstandings would occur. These could only be taught slowly in the future. By the way, Rong Xiu will be staying in my house in Xiling City during this period of time. I'll take him to have a look first. As Chu Luyue spoke, she planned to leave with Rong Xiu. Chang Wanzhou hesitated for a moment and didn't follow. Instead, he looked at the sky and turned to return to his room. After a while, he walked out and walked towards Chu Luyue's room. Yanqing's heart skipped a beat and immediately became alert. However, the next moment, when he saw the situation in front of him, his expression froze for a moment. Chang Wanzhou was holding a rag. Chapter 6:15. Yanqing rubbed her eyes and looked at it a few times to confirm that she was not seeing wrongly. That was indeed a rag. After a while, Chang Wanzhou carried another bucket of water in and did not come out again. This Yanqing pointed in that direction in shock. Miss Liu Yu he is. Chu Luyue glanced at it and waved her hand indifferently. It's fine. He has to clean this place every day at this time. After cleaning up he will naturally go back. At first she refused. This was because Chang Wanzhou cleaned up very cleanly every time. There was really no need to do this every day. Actually, she had tried to persuade him before, but it was useless. In Chang Wanzhou's understanding, this was what he should do, so he was diligent and serious every time. If she did not let him clean, he would even question Chu Luyue if she thought that he did not do well. After a few times, Chu Luyue simply gave up and let him be. Yanqing. What was wrong with him? On the other side, the moment Rong Xiu came out, he sensed several gazes in the dark around him. His brows twitched slightly, and he held Chu Luyue's hand even tighter. Let's go. Chu Luyue retracted her gaze and nodded. However, before she could take 2 steps, she stopped again and sighed helplessly. Senior brothers and senior sisters, please come out. As soon as she finished speaking, the surroundings fell silent for a moment. Then a group of people surged out from the room beside them, as well as from all corners. Lu Jiao, who was standing in front, laughed and scratched the back of his head. What a coincidence, haha. This is Rong Xiu. Chu Luyue spoke straightforwardly. Lu Jiao's voice stopped abruptly. He coughed awkwardly and quickly exchanged glances with everyone. He originally wanted to explain to little junior sister, but little junior sister's eyesight was too good. However, Chu Luyue's next sentence made everyone's eyes light up. He's also my fiancé. This simple and indifferent sentence was like a sudden clap of thunder that fell down. Everyone was curious about Rong Xiu's identity, They didn't expect Chu Luyue to admit it so directly. So junior sister already has a fiancé? Haha. Since he's junior sister's fiancé, he's naturally half a member of the Chongxi Pavilion. If you need anything in the future, just let me know. Don't stand on ceremony. Little junior sister, you never told me that you have such an outstanding fiancé. Everyone exclaimed in surprise and praised him. Needless to say, this man in white was the most outstanding person they had ever seen. Judging from his imposing manner, he did not seem to be an ordinary person. Most importantly, although he had concealed his aura, one could still feel a faint trace of pressure from him. His strength was definitely not weak. Such a person was indeed worthy of little junior sister. Chu Luyue knew that if she didn't say it today, her senior brothers and senior sisters would never forget this matter. So, she might as well be frank about Rongxiu's identity. Then, she introduced these people to Rongxiu one by one. Rongxiu had a smile on his face from beginning to end. He greeted everyone gently and politely. His speech and behavior were all the imposing manner of a noble son from an aristocratic family. Everyone's curiosity was finally satisfied, but they also had some faint doubts. Didn't they say that little junior sister's background was ordinary? But whether it was little junior sister or Rongxiu, they all looked very extraordinary. This noble aura that exuded from his bones was definitely not something that could be raised by an ordinary family. I came in a hurry today, and didn't have time to prepare anything for senior brothers and senior sisters. I can only give you a small gift first. Thank you for taking care of you during this period of time. As he spoke, he raised his finger. Yanqing. Yanqing immediately went forward and walked to Yi Ranran to present something. Miss Yi, please accept it. Chu Luyue glanced at it and realized that it was also a universe ring. However, it seemed to be just an ordinary universe ring. It was different from the one Rongxiu gave her. Yi Ranran was flattered and looked at Lu Jiao and the others in a panic. This didn't seem appropriate, right? Lu Jiao immediately laughed. You're too polite. Lu Yu is our little junior sister. It's only right for us to treat her well. Logically speaking, we should be the ones giving you a greeting gift. Before he could finish speaking, Yanqing had already placed the universe ring in Yi Ranran's hand. She walked in front of Lu Jiao and took out a second universe ring. Young Master Lu, please. Lu Jiao was stunned. He looked at the universe ring in Yi Ranran's hand, and then looked at the one in front of him. So each of them had one? Rongxiu said. It's not valuable. It's nothing valuable. Please feel free to accept it. Since he had already said so much, it was not appropriate to refuse. Lu Jiao could only say, Then, thank you, little brother-in-law. The corners of Chu Luyue's eyes twitched violently. She suddenly had the urge to flee. Little brother-in-law. She quickly glanced at Rongxiu, only to see his calm expression and a smile on his lips. Instead, he was quite satisfied with this address. Senior brother Lu, you're too polite. You are as my fiancé. This is what I should do. Chu Luyue shuddered. Why did he call him senior brother? Rongxiu, is this really appropriate? Chu Luyue silently pinched the back of Rongxiu's hand. What exactly was he planning to do? It was just a simple introduction. Why did he make it seem like? In the face of Chu Luyue's silent accusation, Rongxiu was indifferent. He held her hand and gently scratched her palm. Chu Luyue was speechless. Then, under her shocked gaze, Yanqing quickly gave each of them a universe ring, and he did not address each of them wrongly. After that, Rongxiu said again, I can't stay here today. I can't stay for long today, so I'll have to trouble senior martial brother Lu to transfer the gifts for the pavilion master, Elder Xia Yi, and the other senior brothers and sisters who didn't come today. After that, Yanqing indeed gave him some more. Lu Jiao could only agree in a daze. Don't worry, little brother-in-law. I'll definitely give them all. Rongxiu smiled. In that case, you and I won't disturb you anymore. Goodbye. After that, he left with Chu Luyue and Yanqing. Everyone watched them leave the mountain in unison. They did not come back to their senses for a long time. What the? Suddenly, a cry of surprise broke out in the crowd. Everyone looked over, and saw a man holding a universe ring with a shocked expression. This, Yi Ranran asked in puzzlement. What's wrong? The man swallowed his saliva with great difficulty. Little junior sister's fiancé seems to be extraordinarily rich. Digression. I seem to have an allergic reaction to food. I'll go get some medicine. I'll update from time to time in the afternoon. Mobile users, please browse for a better reading experience from Love Network. Chapter 6:16. Chu Luyue and Rong Xiu walked all the way down the mountain. Finally, she couldn't help but ask, "What did you put in the universe rings that you gave to senior brothers and sisters?" Rong Xiu smiled faintly and said, "Just some things that they can use." Chu Luyue pondered for a moment. "White crystal coins." Rong Xiu smiled but didn't say anything. Chu Luyue thought to herself that it was indeed so. Giving white crystal coins was basically the most convenient and least likely gift. But why did you prepare so much? Could it be that before you came, you're now famous in West Hill, and Chongshu Pavilion is also one of the most important sections. It's not that difficult to find out some things. But you gave so much at once. It seems that they're good to you. It's only right to give them a small gift. Seeing that Rong Xiu spoke so casually, Chu Luyue finally couldn't help but tug at his sleeve. Rong Xiu, tell me honestly, where did you get so much money? If you give me all this money, what will you do? According to her understanding of Rong Xiu, since he had given her money, it definitely wouldn't be a small amount. Not to mention the money that he gave her. Rong Xiu smiled and glanced at her. If you are as worried that I don't have money, you don't have to. I can still afford it. Yanqing followed behind, and the corner of her mouth twitched slightly. Miss Lu, you actually doubted Master's financial resources. Hearing Rong Xiu's words, Chu Luyue was slightly relieved. In fact, she also knew that since Rong Xiu was so generous, he definitely didn't have to worry about money. She was just curious about how he did it. Could it be because of the identity of the Holy Sun? They arrived at the house in West Hill City. Chu Luyue brought the two of them in and said, "Don't worry. I just moved here not long ago, so I've basically just cleaned everything up. There are a few rooms you can take a look at, and choose one that you like." Rong Xiu looked lazy. There's no need for such trouble. This room is excellent. Chu Luyue turned around and followed his line of sight. That's mine, you want to stay in my room? Rong Xiu raised his eyebrows. Weren't we the same in the past? Chu Luyue's eyes twitched. In the past, it was always him who refused to leave. Seeing through Rong Xiu's thoughts, Chu Luyue simply gave up struggling. If you want, it's not impossible. I don't usually come back to this place often, so basically, no one will come to disturb me. Rong Xiu did not mind. If she didn't come, he could go. Chu Luyue stayed with him for a while longer before finally leaving. Jiang residence. Fourth young miss. This is the Bingji ointment that eldest young master specially asked for from the palace. It is said that as long as you use it consistently for half a month, any wound will not leave a scar. As the maidservant spoke, she carefully applied the ointment for Jiang Yuji. Jiang Yuji leaned against the bed with her eyes closed, not saying anything. The maidservant scooped out a spoonful and gently applied it on her face. Hissa! A sharp pain like an icicle came, and Jiang Yuji cried out in pain. She sat up and slapped the maidservant with the back of her hand. Slap! It hurt so much. What did you do? The maidservant was slapped to the ground. A palm print quickly appeared on her face, and her arm was bleeding. However, she still carefully held the Bingji ointment in her hand, afraid that it would break. If this bottle of Bingji ointment was destroyed, she would not be able to pay for it with her life. This servant knows her mistake. This servant knows her mistake. She quickly got up and knelt beside Jiang Yuji's bed, kowtowing and admitting her mistake. Jiang Yuji looked at her irritably and snatched the Bingji ointment away. Get lost. The maidservant retreated in panic. Yes. However, just as she was about to get up, Jiang Yuji glanced at her from the corner of her eye and saw her pale face hanging down. There were tears on her cheeks, and she looked pitiful. The anger in her heart burned even more. Kneel outside. Slap yourself. He would only stop when his face started bleeding. The maidservant was startled. Fourth miss. Why aren't you going? Yes. The maidservant bit her lip and retreated. She knelt outside the door and began to slap herself. Every slap was very hard. The crisp sound of a slap was heard. Jiang Yuji finally calmed down a little. She opened the Bingji ointment and prepared to apply it herself. What are you doing? Before she could do anything, she heard Jiang Yuqing's voice from outside. Eldest young master, this servant did something wrong. How can you behave like this at fourth Mrs. door? You can leave first. Thank you, eldest young master. This servant will take her leave. Then Jiang Yuqing walked in. This is already the fifth servant you've taught a lesson to in the past few days. When are you going to stop? Jiang Yuji put the Bingji ointment on the table with a bang, her expression ugly. Big brother, did you come here today just to teach me a lesson? I'm the fourth miss of the Jiang family. Is it wrong to discipline a few servants? Jiang Yuqing snorted. Don't think that I don't know. These maidservants didn't do anything wrong. You're the one who kept holding on to them. It's precisely because you're the master that you have to pay attention. If word gets out, others will only say that you're domineering, spoiled and willful. Jiang Yuji suddenly stood up and quickly walked in front of Jiang Yuqing. My face is already like this. Don't tell me you won't allow me to vent. Jiang Yuqing's expression was cold. Let's not talk about this first. I've already sent someone to investigate what happened that day. Jiang Yuji's hair stood on end under his gaze. She couldn't help but take half a step back. Big brother, did you find out something? Jiang Yuqing sneered. Aren't you the clearest about what happened that day? I've asked you for so long, but you've never said that you caused such a ruckus at 100 Herbs building. Jiang Yuji immediately felt guilty. I didn't do anything. If you didn't do anything, why would 100 Herbs building blacklist you and threaten to stop doing business with you? When this incident happened, many people saw it. It was easy to find out by asking around. Jiang Yuji was speechless for a moment. So what? If he doesn't want to do it, so be it. It's not like this is the only shop in Shilling City that sells herbs. Do they really dare to do anything to me? Seeing that she was still so stubborn, Jiang Yuqing was extremely disappointed. Things had already come to this point, yet she was still so naive, childish, and self-righteous. 100 Herbs building has a deep foundation and a powerful background. Even I don't want to face them head-on. Why are you so bold? Do you really think that you're so great as the Jiang family's fourth miss? Jiang Yuji's expression changed. Big brother's words were too harsh. But before she could speak, Jiang Yuqing continued. No wonder you were followed and beaten up not long after you left. And you still say that you didn't offend anyone? Jiang Yuji finally reacted. Big brother, you mean that masked man is from 100 Herbs building? Digression. Due to sensitive words and other issues, Chapter 613 is in the process of being revised. Everyone, please be patient. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.